For 3 years, their marriage was a freezing, untouchable charade. But the exact moment she finally demands a divorce, she discovers a life-altering secret. She is pregnant with his child. Desperate to escape a husband who never loved her, she hides the truth and walks away. Yet the icy, distant air she left behind suddenly shatters his own rules. The man who barely touched her for years is now fiercely tracking her every move, consumed by a dark, possessive hunger he can no longer suppress. When a rival threatens to claim her and the unborn baby, her cold-hearted husband finally snaps. He is about to lose his entire corporate empire, but he will burn the world to ashes before he lets another man take his family. Can she survive the dangerous obsession of the man she tried to erase? So he applies her lipstick, her expression a mix of resolve and sadness. For 3 years, she's been married to the cold and distant Jae-hyuk. The pressure mounts during a tense dinner with the chairman, who makes it clear he wants a grandchild soon. Later, Jae-hyuk coldly tells her to forget his father's words, showing zero interest. Despite his dismissal, he feels bound by duty, telling herself she must try because they are married. Arriving at the door, she finds him waiting, his face an unreadable mask. Jae-hyuk stands there, his expression unreadable. He knows the truth about their marriage. It's a complete sham. For 3 years, they've been strangers living under the same roof. The world sees the painter's daughter and the corporate heir as a perfect power couple. But their reality is just empty hallways and separate bedrooms. Tonight, he is done with the charade. She lets her robe fall, revealing a silky nightgown, and steps right up to him. Her heart pounds. For the first time, she is crossing the invisible line he drew between them. He decides tonight is the night. Whether it's the chairman's pressure or her own exhaustion with their sham marriage, she's done waiting. She closes the distance between them, her actions speaking louder than words. He responds, his touch sending a jolt through her as he pulls her closer. For a single, breathless moment, he feels a flicker of hope that things could finally change. But one look at his face shatters the illusion. His eyes are as cold and empty as ever. Still, she won't back down. She promised she would try. He steels herself, prepared for his coldness. She clings to a desperate hope. If she initiates, maybe, just maybe, he will finally change his mind. That night, for the first time in their marriage, the line between them is completely erased. Fast forward 1 week. He stands frozen in front of the mirror, her hands trembling slightly. She anxiously waits for what feels like the longest 3 minutes of her life. The result she's waiting for is about to change the entire game. Her heart hammers as she waits, praying this is it. But the result is a single, damning line. Negative. All her hopes crumble in an instant. She was supposed to give the chairman good news, not another failure. Just as she tries to pull herself together, her phone buzzes on the counter. She picks it up, expecting anything but this. An unknown number sends a photo that stops her breath. It's Jae-hyuk, and he's intimately close with another woman, the glamorous Haiwan. The 1-2 punch of disappointment and betrayal leaves her reeling. His mind reels, refusing to accept what she's seeing. She insists it has to be a misunderstanding, that one photo can't define reality. But a seed of doubt has been planted. Refusing to spiral, she decides to get answers straight from the source. She arranges a meeting with Haiwan at a cafe. Haiwan arrives, all smiles and pleasantries, even bringing up a past interview. He, however, has no time for that. She cuts straight to the chase, telling Haiwan there's something far more important she needs to check right now. Haiwan feigns confusion, but he isn't playing games. She slides her phone across the table, displaying the damning photo of Haiwan wrapped around Jae-hyuk. She demands to know if it's really her. Haiwan's calm demeanor shatters and she stammers, completely caught off guard. Cornered, she takes a deep breath and drops a bombshell. With a tearful look, Haiwan confesses that she's deeply in love with Jae-hyuk. She clarifies it's not just friendship, she's liked him ever since she first saw him at 15. He just stares, absolutely stunned. Haiwan doubles down, claiming her 18-year history with Jae-hyuk means she should be the one by his side. She paints a picture of Jae-hyuk as an emotionally wounded man, insisting that only she can truly comfort him. But he isn't falling for it. She calmly asks if a longtime crush gives someone ownership rights. With a faint smile, he tells Haiwan not to worry, she will take care of her own husband. Enraged, Haiwan shoots up from her seat, but he remains unshaken, coolly reminding her that Jae-hyuk is, in fact, her husband. She declares that she doesn't care about Haiwan's feelings and that the story is one she doesn't need to know. Her cold dismissal sends Haiwan into a rage. Trembling, Haiwan slams her hands on the table, screaming that he and Jae-hyuk are just a couple in name only, without any real feelings. He is utterly stunned. How could she possibly know that? A wicked, triumphant smile spreads across Haiwan's face as she relishes in Sohee's shock. Haiwan questions if her love is truly impossible, leaving Sohee confused. With a cruel smirk, Haiwan hits below the belt, sneering that Sohee is just like her mother, completely losing her composure over a man. The vicious comment sends Sohee spiraling into a traumatic memory. She vividly recalls her father's cold rejection, shouting at her mother for being too possessive. An image of her mother, trembling and begging for forgiveness despite the mistreatment, flashes before Sohee's eyes. The painful memory leaves her utterly shaken to her core. Haiwan's jab sends Sohee spiraling into a horrifying memory of her mother's obsessive love. Her mother's desperate pleas for affection became a tragic final act, a dark ultimatum to prove her feelings even in death. The terrifying thought that she might follow the same path haunts Sohee, and she frantically tries to push the memory away. But then, a gentler moment cuts through the darkness. Jae-hyuk, telling her not to try so hard to forget. Snapping back to the present, Sohee trembles, shaken by the emotional whiplash of her past. Sohee regains her composure, her expression now ice-cold. Haiwan, seething with anger, calls her rude and attempts to threaten her. She points out that she's the unmarried editor-in-chief of Perry and asks how it would look if news got out that she was chasing a married man. But the threat completely backfires. Unfazed, Sohee stands, asks if Haiwan enjoyed her coffee, and hopes they never meet like this again. She turns and walks away with purpose, leaving a powerless and trembling Haiwan fuming at the table. Walking alone as snow begins to fall, Sohee is stuck in her thoughts. Her mother's words have left her feeling powerless. But then, her mind drifts to a different memory, a moment of unexpected comfort from the first day of her honeymoon. She recalls waking from a nightmare, screaming and unable to escape the lingering horror. Jae-hyuk, toweling his hair dry, calmly told her not to try so hard to forget. He explained that forcing it would only make the memory stronger. His simple words, spoken so casually, were a profound comfort to her. A tear escapes Sohee's eye as she reflects on Jae-hyuk's small acts of kindness. It felt like he was building memories with her, but the thought makes her question her own desires. What was she hoping for? Did she just try everything to win his heart, just like her mother did? The memory shatters, too close to that painful obsession. But Sohee stops herself. She declares she is different. This isn't obsession. With new clarity, she realizes she has to finally let him go. With her resolve hardened, Sohee walks straight into Jae-hyuk's corporate office. His secretary respectfully shows her in. Jae-hyuk doesn't even look up from his desk, coldly asking what brings her here. She offers to wait, but he bluntly tells her to just say what she came for. Her hands tremble as she grips her purse, but her gaze is firm. Taking a deep breath, she looks him in the eye and drops the bomb he never saw coming. She declares that they should get a divorce. Jae-hyuk is completely stunned by her demand, barely managing to ask what she just said. A month later, Sohee steps out under a sky of blooming cherry blossoms, a picture of calm composure. Suddenly, her phone buzzes with an incoming call from the chairman. He had just been looking at a magazine feature on her and Jae-hyuk, complimenting how pretty his daughter-in-law looked. He then summons her to the family home, saying he wants to see her. Sohee agrees to go immediately, and the chairman urges her to hurry. As Sohee heads to the family estate, she steels herself. She knows she must tell the chairman about the divorce. The news will surely shock him, given how much he admired her late father, the famous painter. She recalls being lost and buried in debt after her father's passing. That's when the chairman, a known patron of talented people, stepped in. He appeared at the funeral and handled everything, from her father's massive debts to the expenses. Back then, she was puzzled by his generosity, but now she heads to his home to deliver the news. Sohee's mind flashes back to the day it all began. The chairman, her savior, had one simple proposal: to meet his grandson. That's how she met Jae-hyuk for the very first time. Now, standing in front of that very same mansion, she's here to end it all. Taking a breath, she presses the doorbell, ready to face the chairman. But when a voice calls from inside and the door creaks open, Sohee is completely stunned. That wasn't the chairman's voice at all. Sohee stares in disbelief. The woman who opened the door is none other than Haiwan. Just then, the chairman appears, welcoming Sohee warmly. But Haiwan immediately steps in, doting on the chairman and calling him grandfather. As Sohee watches them interact like a real family, she feels a painful sting of exclusion. The chairman jokes that he should marry Haiwan off just to get some peace. Turning with a smirk, Haiwan looks straight at Sohee and declares she can't be sent away.
Why?
Because she already has someone she loves. Haiwan's declaration leaves Sohee reeling, wondering if the other woman still has feelings for Jae-hyuk. Haiwan smirks, asking if So-hee changed her hair just to impress him. She then turns to the chairman, gushing that her mystery man loves her new style and she'll introduce him soon. The chairman sighs in frustration, complaining that he can't even see his own grandson-in-law. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk sits stonily in his car, coldly telling his driver he doesn't need to hear any reports on So-hee's location. He is completely shutting her out. Haiwon's friendly act is sickening as she asks how So-hee has been. The chairman chimes in, asking about recent events. So-hee thinks it's the perfect chance to reveal the divorce. But the moment never comes. As evening falls, So-hee announces her departure, only for Haiwon to insist on seeing her out. So-hee realizes Haiwon deliberately blocked her from speaking to the chairman alone. At the door, Haiwon drops a bomb. With a smug look, she says Jae-hyuk told her everything, asking So-hee directly about the divorce. So-hee is completely shocked. Why would Jae-hyuk tell her? Numb with shock, So-hee stumbles back to her room. She barely manages to swipe the keycard before her strength gives out entirely. Her purse clatters to the floor as she collapses against the wall, utterly defeated. Her mind races, replaying Haiwon's words. Did Jae-hyuk really tell his ex about their divorce? She can't even remember how she responded. A painful memory surfaces, and she realizes how foolish she was to ever hold onto feelings for him. It was a mistake to think he could ever truly be hers. Haunted by a dark memory of her mother that fills her with a bitter hatred, So-hee is suddenly jolted by her ringing phone.
It's Secretary Yu.
Confused, she answers, only for him to say he's outside her residence, sent by the vice chairman. Before she can respond, the call abruptly ends. Did something happen? Panicked, So-hee scrambles to her feet and throws open the door, needing to get outside. But she's stopped dead in her tracks. Jae-hyuk stands before her, blocking her way and coldly asking where she thinks she's going. Jae-hyuk's voice is ice, as he demands to know where she's going. Trapped in the doorway, So-hee notices he smells strongly of alcohol. He reaches out to touch her hair, commenting on her new haircut, but she flinches away instinctively. A cruel smirk plays on his lips as he asks if his touch disgusts her now. Before she can answer, he declares, "Fine," grabs her wrist and yanks her back inside the room. The door clicks shut behind them, trapping her with him. Jae-hyuk's grip loosens as he suddenly pulls So-hee into a heavy embrace, telling her to come to him. He slumps against her, the alcohol hitting him all at once. Stunned, So-hee struggles to support his weight and gets him onto the bed. She finds his phone and calls Secretary Yu, assuring him she will take care of Jae-hyuk for the night. As she watches him sleep, she gently brushes his hair aside. It's the first time they've seen each other since she asked for a divorce, and she instantly regrets letting him in. So-hee watches him sleep, wondering if she made a mistake. She couldn't send him away in that state, so she decides he can have the bed for one night. As she turns to leave, his voice cuts through the silence, calling her a selfish woman. Lying with his eyes still closed, Jae-hyuk murmurs that if he could, he'd take back their entire 3 years together. The confession shatters her world. Did he always regret their marriage? Before she can process it, she realizes he's no longer in bed. He's standing right in front of her, wide awake. Jae-hyuk closes the distance between them, his face just inches from hers. So he shoves him back, demanding to know what he's doing, but her anger stalls. With a pained expression, he begs her not to push him away. That's when she sees it. Tears are streaming down his cheeks. Shocked by this sudden vulnerability, she instinctively reaches up to his face, asking why he's crying. He grabs her hand, pressing it to his lips in a desperate, broken gesture, leaving So-hee speechless as he calls her name with raw desperation. Overwhelmed by his tears, So-hee freezes as Jae-hyuk pulls her into a tight, desperate embrace. He begs her again not to push him away. He gently covers her eyes, and she's left in darkness with nothing but the thundering pulse of his heartbeat against her hand. Before she can speak, he moves his hand to cover her mouth, silencing her completely. Leaning in, he whispers the 3 words she has waited 3 years to hear, that he loves her. So-hee's entire world grinds to a halt, her mind reeling from the shocking confession. Jae-hyuk gazes down at So-hee while she sleeps, his expression a mask of sorrow and regret. Deciding against another confrontation, he turns away. He quietly walks over to a small table, writes a quick message on a notepad, and slips out of the apartment before she can wake up. When morning breaks, So-hee finds herself completely alone. Her eyes land on the note he left behind. She sinks into a nearby chair, her hands unsteady as she reads his words. His message leaves her stunned into absolute silence. Tears stream down So-hee's face as she clutches the note. After his desperate confession, Jae-hyuk left just one cryptic line: "See you on 21st." The vague message shakes her to the core, leaving her more confused than ever. 6 weeks later, So-hee walks through the courthouse when a sudden wave of dizziness crashes over her. She stumbles, clutching her head and wondering why she feels so weak. The sudden exhaustion is too much, forcing her to collapse onto a nearby bench just to catch her breath. So-hee waits anxiously at the courthouse, her patience wearing thin. She rereads Jae-hyuk's text, which blames an important meeting for his delay. She knows it's just another excuse he uses to postpone their divorce. As if on cue, a notification pops up on her phone, reminding her the paperwork was due a week ago. Just then, the sound of firm footsteps echoes in the hall. So-hee looks up to see Jae-hyuk himself, who calmly apologizes for being late. Completely stunned that he actually came, she can only stare in disbelief. Inside the courthouse, So-hee gets straight to business, asking if he has the papers. An official hands them an envelope, instructing them to check the dates and return later. With a cool expression, Jae-hyuk agrees. As they exit the building, the harsh reality hits So-hee. After today, they are strangers. They silently turn and walk in opposite directions. Though it was her decision, the finality stings. Suddenly, a familiar wave of weakness washes over her. The headache, nausea, and exhaustion return, forcing her to clutch her chest as she struggles to stay upright. As So-hee struggles to her feet, a shocking realization hits her. Her period. It's late. Her mind reels with an impossible thought. Just then, Jae-hyuk's voice breaks the silence. He asks where she's living now that she's moved out. Caught off guard, she admits she rented a small office cell. He coldly tells her she can't stay there forever, then dismisses her to go to work. Before walking away, he gives one last parting shot. They'll see each other in a month. He leaves, abandoning her to face this life-altering secret all alone. With her mind spinning, So-hee rushes into the nearest pharmacy. Her voice is firm as she asks for the most reliable pregnancy test available. In the cold silence of a public restroom, she holds her breath, praying for a negative result. She just wants to cut ties with Jae-hyuk and finally be free. But her hopes shatter in an instant. Two distinct lines appear on the test stick, a clear, undeniable positive. Her escape plan just came crashing down. She's pregnant with her husband's child, right as their divorce is about to be finalized. So-hee's mind screams in denial. This can't be happening. She clings to the hope that the test is just broken, that her symptoms are only from exhaustion. But the terrifying thought takes root. If this is real, getting pregnant right now is an absolute catastrophe. Meanwhile, at the corporate headquarters, Jae-hyuk strides into his office and stops cold. He finds his ambitious cousin, Ji Hae-sung, casually sitting at his desk. Jae-hyuk's voice is ice as he demands to know what he's doing there. With a smug grin, Hae-sung asks how things went with So-hee. Jae-hyuk slumps into a chair, looking utterly defeated. The moment he confirms they filed for divorce, Hae-sung's casual act vanishes. He demands to know why Jae-hyuk would let this happen. Jae-hyuk coldly states it was So-hee's final decision, and there's nothing more he can do. But Hae-sung isn't buying it. He slams his hands on the desk, shouting that he knows for a fact that Jae-hyuk has no intention of actually ending his marriage. Hae-sung calls him out, admitting their marriage was an arrangement but questioning if it was truly without feeling. He tells Jae-hyuk to be honest, accusing him of being obsessed with So-hee. Stunned for a moment, Jae-hyuk coldly denies it. But as he sits at his desk, his gaze lands on a magazine featuring an old interview with him and So-hee. A reporter had asked when he thought of his wife, and his printed answer was on bright, sunny days. Jae-hyuk clenches his fists, his mind screaming that it's impossible. Unable to shake her fear, So-hee ended up at the hospital, praying the positive test was a mistake. Sitting in the waiting room, her anxiety spikes as she sees a doting husband with his very pregnant wife, a painful glimpse of a life she'll never have. She's so lost in her thoughts that she completely misses the nurse calling her name. When they call for Cha So-hee again, she finally snaps out of her daze, jolting to her feet and confirming she's there. Her heart pounds as she prepares for the truth. The doctor smiles, delivering the news with a cheerful congratulations. She confirms So-hee is about 7 weeks pregnant. For So-hee, this isn't happy news, it's a bombshell. Her hands tremble as raw panic sets in. She just found the courage to finally divorce Jae-hyuk, and now she's carrying his child. Numbly, she agrees to a screening. Later, sitting alone on a park bench, she stares at the ultrasound photo. The doctor assured her the baby is healthy, but So-hee just feels trapped, clutching the proof of a bond she can never sever. Sitting on the park bench, So-hee's mind shifts from panic to a stark realization. With this pregnancy, it's just her and the baby against the world. They have no one else to rely on. Telling Jae-hyuk isn't an option, and with her parents gone, she's completely alone. Fear grips her heart as she shakes her head, acknowledging the terrifying situation she's in. But despite the overwhelming odds, a new strength emerges. She looks down at the ultrasound photo, making a silent vow. She will not give up on this child. With her resolve steeled, So he walks on, vowing to get through this on her own. Her attention is suddenly snagged by a humble fruit stand on the side of the road. The vibrant red apples seem to glow, bringing a faint smile to her lips. This triggers a memory. She ate tons of apples as a kid. In a flashback, a young Sohee happily munches on apple slices in her living room. But the sweet, peaceful moment is cut short when her mother suddenly walks in, startling the little girl mid-bite. In the memory, young Sohee suddenly chokes on an apple slice, coughing uncontrollably. She panics, terrified that making noise will get her in trouble with her mother. But instead of anger, a gentle hand pats her back. Her mother's voice, full of worry, asks if she's okay. The unexpected kindness leaves the little girl stunned. Back in the present, Sohee touches her face, recalling this strange moment. She never understood why her mother was so different that day, but it was the first and only time she had ever shown her such warmth. Sohee sinks deeper into the bittersweet memory. As a child, she ate apples constantly, hoping to see that rare, warm side of her mother just one more time. But after that day, her mother became a ghost behind a closed door, and that brief moment of kindness was never repeated. Back in the present, her stomach suddenly rumbles. Looking at the fruit stand, she realizes that while she never cared for apples as an adult, they now look irresistible. A gentle smile forms as she holds her stomach, wondering if her baby is already taking after her. Sohee accepts that no amount of apples will ever bring back the family she wished for. Still, she wonders if she could build a new, happier one now. With fresh determination, she buys a bag of the fruit. She knows she can't rely on Jae-hyuk anymore. She has to raise this child all by herself. Walking away from the stand, she quietly promises her baby that she will protect them. A sudden wave of regret hits her. If she had known her life would turn out this way, she never would have quit art in college. Her mind wanders to Jang Se-inwoo, a world-famous artist from her past. He was her father's disciple, a genius she studied alongside in their youth. He now lives in the United States, and she assumes he's still there since she last saw him 3 years ago. As she walks, her phone suddenly buzzes. She looks down, confused by the unknown number. Meanwhile, in an office, a team leader gives an important order. He instructs his subordinate to prepare for Se-inwoo's arrival, ensuring everything from the airport to the hotel is perfectly arranged for the VIP. In his office, Jae-hyuk glares at his subordinate. Team leader Ju bows deeply, nervously explaining that the VIP artist, Jang Se-inwoo, is unreachable outside of work hours. Jae-hyuk's voice is ice. He demands to know why he's only hearing about this problem now. He questions Ju's competence, wondering aloud if he can trust him with such a vital project. After a tense silence, Jae-hyuk dismisses him, ordering him to keep trying to make contact. Alone, Jae-hyuk recalls the artist's full title, Jang Se-inwoo, the renowned disciple of Sohee's father. Sohee arrives at the coffee shop mentioned by the mysterious caller. As she steps inside, a voice calls her name, telling her he's over here. She turns, her eyes widening in disbelief. It's Jang Se-inwoo, the very artist she was just thinking about, waving at her from a table. Stunned by the wild coincidence, she waves back. He greets her with a warm smile, noting that it's been a long time since they last saw each other. It has been 3 years, to be exact. What are the odds? Se-inwoo almost chokes on his drink, stunned by her confession. He asks if she's really getting a divorce. So he calmly confirms his question. Flustered, Se-inwoo apologizes for prying, explaining he just wanted to catch up. But she tells him it's fine. Inside, so he feels a sense of relief. Even after 3 years, he's still the same, easy person to talk to. She'd been wanting to vent, and saying it all out loud finally makes her feel a little lighter, as if a weight has been lifted from her chest. Se-inwoo asks if anyone else knows about the divorce. So he admits that he's the first person she's told. Looking worried, he gently asks if she's doing okay after everything she's been through. She tells him she actually feels more at ease now, assuming Jae-hyuk must feel the same way. Se-inwoo notes how much has changed in 3 years, not just the divorce, but even her taste in drinks. He recalls how she used to only drink warm tea, even in summer, but now she's having a cold lemonade. So he stares at her glass, flustered by his sharp memory. Se-inwoo snaps Sohee out of her thoughts, asking what's on her mind. She brushes it off and asks if he'll go with her to Hoi, her father's art gallery. She wants to see the art together. Se-inwoo's expression turns serious as he asks why she wants to go there. So he calmly tells him she has her reasons. Understanding her determination, he agrees. As they leave the cafe, the bell on the door jingles. Se-inwoo pauses just outside, pulling his phone from his pocket as if to make a call. As they leave, Se-inwoo's phone buzzes with a call from team leader Ju. So he notices his pause and asks if something is wrong. He quickly dismisses her concern, saying it's nothing before hurrying her along to the gallery. Inside, So-hee remarks that it's been a long time since she last visited. Se-inwo recalls their last trip together was about 3 years ago, just before she got married. As they walk through the gallery, he suddenly stops in front of a specific painting, stunned to see that it's still there. Se-inwo points to a vibrant painting of a tree, identifying it as Neverland, the last piece his mentor never finished. So he asks where her father's other works are. She drops a bombshell. All his other art was thrown away. This one only survived because it was incomplete. Se-inwo is visibly disappointed, but So-hee holds a secret. There's a real reason Neverland couldn't be sold. In a flashback, a young So-hee asks her father why Neverland isn't real. Filled with childhood determination, she declared that she would find it herself, surprising him. The flashback reveals a young Jae-hyuk striking a deal with So-hee. He told her if she found Neverland, he would get the painting, a piece her father had already promised to him. Back in the present, So-hee admits the memory is hazy, but it's the reason she kept the art. Se-inwo then notices some of her old paintings. He remarks that her style resembles her father's and suggests she could still be an artist, offering his help. But So-hee firmly turns him down, placing her hand on Neverland and declaring she will never draw again. Se-inwo accepts her decision, telling her to let him know if she ever reconsiders. Internally, So-hee admits she's lost her passion for drawing, but she wonders why the painting and the memory of a certain boy still linger. The only boy she knew back then was Se-inwo. She turns and asks him if he remembers promising to find something for her as a child. Confused, Se-inwo asks what she's talking about. Realizing he's not the boy from her past, So-hee quickly backtracks, insisting it was just a mistake and nothing important. So-hee realizes the painting belongs to someone else. If the boy from her memory wasn't Se-inwo, then who is he? Sensing her distress, Se-inwo asks her to be honest about why she's selling the studio so suddenly after her divorce. He offers his assistance, and though So-hee hesitates to burden him, she knows she has no one else to turn to. She decides to confide in him. Meanwhile, at a towering corporate building, someone calls out for the vice chairman. In a meeting room, Se-inwo sits and waits, his arrival having just been announced. Jae-hyuk confirms his orders and tells his team the meeting will start now. The door to the conference room swings open, revealing So-hee's ex-husband. He thanks Se-inwo for waiting, formally introducing himself as part of the Hongseong group. Se-inwo remarks that they haven't seen each other since the wedding. The air grows thick with unspoken history as Jae-hyuk closes the distance between them. He looks Se-inwo dead in the eye and asks a single, loaded question. Is So-hee doing well? A confident smile forms on Se-inwo's lips. He smoothly replies that of course So-hee is doing fine. With their personal business seemingly concluded, the corporate meeting finally gets underway. A presenter begins discussing a major electronics project, but Se-inwo's mind is elsewhere. He scoffs internally at his own lie. Doing fine, he thinks to himself, staring into space. He realizes with certainty that Jae-hyuk knows absolutely nothing about So-hee's current, very delicate condition. Her ex-husband is completely oblivious to the truth. So-hee takes a deep breath, ready to tell Se-inwo everything. She calls out his name, beginning to reveal the truth, but a sudden wave of dizziness washes over her. The room starts to spin, and her vision blurs as her legs give out from under her. Reacting instantly, Se-inwo catches her just as she collapses to the floor. Panicked, he pulls out his phone, telling her he's calling for help. But So-hee grabs his arm, her eyes wide with desperation, and pleads with him not to make the call. Se-inwo is stunned, questioning why she'd refuse help when she's clearly in bad shape. Weakly, So-hee explains that her divorce isn't finalized. If emergency services are called, Jae-hyuk would be the one they contact. Se-inwo promises to prevent that from happening at the hospital, but she still refuses, insisting she just needs to rest. Finally, with a trembling breath, she drops the bombshell. Gathering all her strength, she confesses the real secret. She is pregnant with Jae-hyuk's child and desperately needs Se-inwo's help. Clutching her stomach, So-hee begs Se-inwo to help keep her pregnancy a secret from Jae-hyuk. Meanwhile, the corporate meeting concludes, a successful venture based on Se-inwo's art. As attendees leave, Jae-hyuk walks over to the artist, thanking him for his hard work. He asks if Se-inwo is satisfied with the results. Keeping a straight face, Se-inwo says it was no problem. Jae-hyuk confirms his own satisfaction, completely unaware that the man before him now holds the biggest secret of his life. Jae-hyuk admits he's surprised by the choice of artwork, but Se-inwo assures him he's grateful. He explains that the painting, Hoi, was created 3 years ago during a dark period in his life, and he never imagined it would receive any attention. Jae-hyuk praises the piece, insisting it's a great work that shouldn't go unnoticed. Se-inwo hopes the painting will bring comfort to others, just as it once did for him. Jae-hyuk watches him leave, completely oblivious to the life-altering secret the artist now carries. Jae-hyuk can't shake Se-inwo's strange comment about comfort. His fist clenches at his side, the tension palpable. Just then, a voice calls his name, snapping him out of his thoughts. It's President Hong Yunseok, striding over with his entourage. With a knowing smirk, Yunseok asks what's bothering him, casually mentioning he was looking for him anyway. Wary of the interruption, Jae-hyuk cuts straight to the chase, demanding to know what business the president has with him. The office politics never stop. President Yunseok waves a dismissive hand, telling Jae-hyuk to drop the formalities and just call him uncle. But Jae-hyuk isn't playing along. He stonewalls the president, flatly refusing the overly familiar gesture. Undeterred, Jae-hyuk states that since they are within the company, professional courtesy is required. He then coolly instructs President Hong to act accordingly. Stunned for a moment, Yunseok forces a laugh, remarking that he never expected to be scolded by his own nephew. Then, he finally gets to the point, mentioning he heard about an issue at the artist meeting. President Yunseok smugly offers his help, thinking he has Jae-hyuk cornered. But Jae-hyuk shuts him down flat. He says the issue is already resolved and is none of the president's concern. With a cold glare, Jae-hyuk adds that everyone should just focus on their own jobs. Yunseok's hand clenches into a tight fist, his friendly facade cracking. Unbothered, Jae-hyuk announces he's leaving and walks away. The president's men are left sputtering in disbelief, shocked that Jae-hyuk would so boldly disrespect his uncle's so-called kindness. As President Yunseok's men rush to calm him, he forces a twisted smile. He dismisses Jae-hyuk's bold behavior as something that can't be helped with young blood and tells them to let it go for now. But the moment he's back in his private office, his composure cracks. Yunseok slams his fist down hard on his desk, his fury finally erupting. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk remains cold and detached, justifying his actions with the simple thought that everyone should just do their own jobs responsibly. The power play is far from over. Fuming in his office, President Yunseok calls Jae-hyuk an arrogant brat. He's furious that the chairman's favoritism has made his nephew cocky enough to disrespect him. But his rage is cut short when his phone rings. An unexpected call from Sohee, who greets him as dad and asks if he has a moment. A sinister smile twists Yunseok's lips. Playing the doting father-in-law, he agrees to talk, secretly thinking this is the perfect opportunity. He's eager to see just how long Jae-hyuk's defiant attitude can possibly last now. Alone in his office, Jae-hyuk covers his face, letting out a stressed sigh. The pressure is getting to him. Suddenly, Seon-woo casually asks if Sohee is doing well, striking a raw nerve. At the same time, Sohee's resolve is unshakable. She is absolutely committed to the divorce. As Jae-hyuk reels from the thought, his door flies open. Ji Haesung barges in, slamming a file on the desk. He angrily demands to know why Jae-hyuk ignored his calls. Completely caught off guard, Jae-hyuk can only ask when his brother even arrived. Ignoring his brother's question, Ji Haesung casually drops a bombshell. He says he was just passing by when he discovered that Sohee's family art gallery is officially listed for sale. He needles Jae-hyuk, reminding him it's the very gallery Sohee used to manage. Completely stunned, Jae-hyuk asks why. With a sly smirk, Haesung suggests that if he's so curious, he should use this as an excuse to contact her. Having successfully planted the seed of chaos, Haesung walks out, leaving Jae-hyuk to process the shocking news alone. 10 days later, Sohee is jolted awake by a phone call. The man on the other end introduces himself as a real estate director with shocking news. Someone is interested in purchasing the Hoi Gallery. Though surprised, she doesn't hesitate. The director asks if the potential buyer can visit that very afternoon. Sohee immediately agrees, telling him to just give her the time and she will be there. A short while later, she arrives at the gallery, her expression a mask of determination, ready for the meeting. Sohee arrives at the gallery, feeling a surge of relief. After the initial silence, she's glad someone is finally interested and hopes the meeting goes well. She checks the time, wondering if she's a little too early. Suddenly, her eyes lock onto a familiar black car parked across the street. Her blood runs cold. That's Jae-hyuk's car. A wave of confusion hits her. Why is he here? Before she can even process the thought, the car door swings open and Sohee freezes, bracing herself for the person stepping out. A shocking realization dawns on Sohee. Could Jae-hyuk be the mysterious buyer? Her fears are confirmed as her ex-husband steps out of the vehicle, his face an unreadable mask. He greets her coolly, saying it's been a while and noting it's the first time they've seen each other since filing the divorce papers. Completely blindsided by a sudden appearance, Sohee struggles to find her words. Finally, she confronts him, demanding to know why he is even there. This was the last person she ever expected to see. Jae-hyuk drops the bombshell, confirming he's the one who wants to purchase the gallery. Before Sohee can object, he states their discussion will take time and tells her to get in his car. But instead of the gallery, they arrive at the fancy Grand Royal Hotel. So he is stunned. This was a place they used to visit for couples gatherings. She feels self-conscious and underdressed for such a place. Jae-hyuk simply tells her not to worry, claiming he just needed a quiet place to talk, keeping her completely off balance. So he feels a pang of frustration with herself. After all this time, she realizes that simply adjusting to Jae-hyuk's demands has become a deeply ingrained habit. They're led into a luxurious VIP room, where Jae-hyuk bluntly tells her to sit down so they can eat while they talk. Surrounded by an extravagant meal, So-hee's mind races, wondering what he's really up to. Jae-hyuk finally gets to the point, stating he was surprised she put the gallery up for sale, but immediately follows up with a critique. Her asking price is lower than he expected. Jae-hyuk notes that her low asking price makes it seem like she wants to sell quickly, even though the market is strong. Before So-hee can properly respond, he drops a bombshell offer, 3 times the market value. Stunned, she can only stare as he demands she sell the gallery to him. He coolly explains that she should consider it part of their divorce settlement. Then, he delivers the final blow, calling it her reward for enduring their 3 years of marriage. His cruel words leave So-hee utterly shattered and speechless in her seat. His cruel words hang in the air. Jae-hyuk coldly asks if accepting his offer wouldn't just be easier for her. So-hee trembles, completely stunned by his audacity to call this transaction a reward. Her heart hammers against her ribs, the insult echoing in her mind. But the shock quickly hardens into resolve. In one swift motion, she shoves her chair back and rises to her feet. The lavish meal is forgotten as she glares at him, no longer willing to just sit there and take his condescending charity. The battle has just begun. Her face is pale, but her resolve is firm. So he coolly informs Jae-hyuk that she needs to visit the restroom for a moment. He watches her go, his expression unreadable. The moment she's alone, her strong facade crumbles. In the quiet of the restroom, his suggestion that forgetting their past would be easier for her echoes in her mind. The sheer cruelty of his words hits her all at once. Tears she refused to show him now stream down her cheeks as the raw pain of his dismissal finally breaks through. So he fights to collect herself, wiping away her tears. This lingering attachment to Jae-hyuk has to end now. She can't afford to feel this way anymore. After composing her expression, she walks back toward the private room, but a staff member abruptly blocks her path. The employee coldly states that only guests on the reservation list are allowed inside. So he tries to explain she was just at the table, but the woman simply gives her a smug, knowing look. Jae-hyuk has set a trap. So he turns around to see 2 staff members whispering and giving her condescending looks. They smugly explain that entry is difficult tonight due to all the VIP guests. The public humiliation makes her blood boil. Are they really laughing at her? Furious, so he confronts them, telling them exactly how rude they're being. Meanwhile, back at the table, Jae-hyuk starts to get impatient. He wonders what's taking her so long, then notices her bag is still on the chair. He knows she hasn't left for good, but something is clearly wrong. Jae-hyuk's patience finally snaps. It's been almost 30 minutes, and he remembers the staff's strange expressions. A gut feeling tells him something is seriously wrong, and he decides to go find So-hee. Just as she's being cornered, a sharp voice calls out the staff for being rude. So he turns, stunned, to see Se-inwo standing there. One employee's jaw drops, recognizing the world-famous artist Jang Se-inwo, who took America by storm. Her coworker just looks on, completely clueless about the celebrity in front of them. Just as Jae-hyuk rounds the corner, he freezes, witnessing the entire scene unfold. Se-inwo tells the rude staff he won't say it again and demands they step aside. Terrified, they bow and offer a flood of apologies. Without another word, Se-inwo grabs So-hee's hand and pulls her away. Startled, she asks him to wait, but he firmly tells her to let go so they can talk. He then apologizes for being so abrupt, explaining he was just worried about causing a scene. So-hee assures him it's fine but asks what he's doing here. Se-inwo tells So-hee to just forget about the rude staff, but she gratefully thanks him for stepping in. From down the hall, Jae-hyuk watches the entire exchange, his expression completely unreadable. He's baffled. Why is his wife with the famous artist Jang Se-inwo? As he observes them, he sees a side of So-hee he's never witnessed before. She's laughing and smiling, looking genuinely cheerful. The realization that he's never seen her this happy hits Jae-hyuk hard, and his face darkens with a storm of unfamiliar emotions as he hides in the shadows. After leaving the gallery, So-hee says goodbye to Se-inwo, thanking him again for his help. Believing she's finally alone, she turns to head inside, but a hand suddenly slams against the wall, cutting off her path. Startled, So-hee looks up to find Jae-hyuk blocking her way with an icy glare. He tells her he's finally found her before demanding to know what she was doing. With a dangerously low voice, he asks if she got so caught up in her conversation that she completely lost track of time. Startled, So-hee asks if he was waiting for her, quickly explaining she just ran into an acquaintance. But Jae-hyuk's cold stare doesn't let up. He points out how well she was smiling just a moment ago. Utterly confused, she asks what he means. Jae-hyuk cuts through the act, revealing he knows Jong Se-inhwa is no mere acquaintance and that they've been close since childhood. So he reels back, baffled by his aggressive tone. Finding his behavior completely unpleasant, she glares back, but he simply holds out his hand and sternly demands her bag. So he snatches her bag strap back from his grasp. She coldly reminds him of his own words, that they are nothing to each other anymore. Fed up with his games, she orders him to stop meddling in her business and turns her back on him, walking away. As she storms down the hall, her mind races with confusion. Why is he acting like this now? It was his choice to end things. Suddenly, a sharp cramp shoots through her stomach, and she cries out, clutching her abdomen as she stumbles against the wall. The sharp cramp intensifies, and so he wonders why it hurts so much as she collapses against the floor. At that exact moment, Se-inhwa happens to be walking down the same hallway, his meeting having finished early. He stops dead in his tracks when he sees her hunched over in distress. Rushing to her side, he kneels and calls her name with panicked urgency. He gently touches her shoulder, asking what's wrong. Looking up with a face pale from agony, so he desperately asks him what she should do, her voice trembling. Se-inhwa's face floods with panic as he asks if she's okay. Gasping, so he explains the sudden, sharp pain in her stomach. Fear grips her as she wonders if something is terribly wrong with her body. Seeing her terror, Se-inhwa quickly reassures her that he will help. Wasting no time, he rushes her to the nearest hospital. Soon, So-hee is sitting in the obstetrics and gynecology department. The doctor calls her name, ready to discuss the alarming symptoms that brought her here, her baby's fate hanging in the balance. Inside the doctor's office, So-hee is told it's best to check on the baby's condition with an ultrasound. She agrees, but her mind spirals into a dark place, fearing the worst possible news. What if something is wrong with her child? After a tense wait, the doctor turns from her monitor. She tells So-hee that her examination results are perfectly normal. The pain was simply a common symptom of the baby growing. So-hee's face floods with overwhelming relief as she asks if everything is truly okay, a glimmer of hope returning to her eyes. The doctor reassures So-hee, explaining that her concerns are very common. Breathing a sigh of relief, So-hee listens as the doctor offers something special, a recording of the baby's heartbeat. So-hee's eyes widen, and she eagerly agrees to listen. A small, rapid thumping sound fills the quiet room. As the steady rhythm of a tiny heart plays, a wave of pure joy washes over So-hee. All her fears melt away, replaced by overwhelming gratitude and a deep, protective love for the life growing inside her. She finally feels at peace. While driving to the hospital, Se-inhwa's mind races with worry. He can't shake the fear that something is seriously wrong with So-hee. Pulling into the parking lot, she opens the car door, thanking him and insisting she can go in by herself from here. But Se-inhwa immediately refuses. He won't hear of it. Looking at her with absolute determination, he declares that he is taking her all the way inside. He's not about to leave her side when she's in this much distress. Se-inhwa leans out of his car, insisting it's better for her to have someone by her side when she's not feeling well. But So-hee gently pushes back. She tells him it's fine, worried that if someone recognizes him with her, rumors might spread. She doesn't want to cause him any trouble. Se-inhwa is stunned by her words. He asks incredulously if she really thinks being with her is a problem for him. His expression turns serious as he firmly denies it, calling out her name with a look of genuine hurt. Frozen in pure shock, a man clamps his hands over his mouth, his eyes wide with terror. He stumbles backward, desperate to get away, but falls hard onto the pavement. It's no use. A shadowy figure suddenly looms over him. Before he can even process what's happening, a powerful hand grabs his collar, hoisting him into the air with terrifying ease. Helpless and dangling, he stares into the darkness as a cold voice cuts through the silence, asking if he saw everything. The jig is up. Jae-hyuk jolts awake in bed, gasping for air and drenched in a cold sweat. A terrifying nightmare lingers in his mind, feeling all too real. Shaken, he sits up, noting it's been a long time since he's had that specific dream, one he thought he had finally forgotten. Just then, the buzz of his phone cuts through the silence. He picks it up and sees the time is 5:42 a.m., but it's the notification below that stops him cold. It's a reminder for his father's death anniversary, and he realizes it's today. Jae-hyuk jolts awake from a nightmare, wondering why the bad dreams have suddenly returned. As he gets out of bed, a memory flashes before him. So-hee, walking gracefully down the stairs. An earth-shattering realization hits him like a ton of bricks. He never had nightmares when she was living here. Her presence had been a silent comfort he took for granted. Now, as he stares into the vast, empty living room, the house feels cold and impossibly gloomy. He finally understands just how much light she brought into his dark life. A sleek black car glides to a stop in front of a massive, traditional estate. The driver announces their arrival to the vice chairman, and a voice from inside gives a simple confirmation. From a window, the chairman watches the grounds with a somber expression. The scene suddenly shifts to a memory. A soccer ball flies across the very same lawn, kicked by a much younger Jae-hyuk. He's laughing and full of life, a world away from the cold man he is today, as a cheerful voice calls out his name. A sharp knock cuts through the quiet estate. Jae-hyuk announces his arrival to the chairman, who calmly grants him entry. Sitting across from each other, the chairman reveals he's leaving on an urgent business trip to England tomorrow. He explains the work is crucial for the company's future and needs his personal attention. In his absence, he wants Jae-hyuk to manage everything. Jae-hyuk agrees, promising to do his best. With business settled, the chairman smoothly changes the subject, asking Jae-hyuk if he came alone today. The chairman asks why Jae-hyuk came alone, revealing he expected him to bring So-hee since today marks the anniversary of his father's passing. He grows somber, admitting he still regrets how things ended with his son. Jae-hyuk simply says it's fine. The chairman then circles back, asking if So-hee is here after all. He explains that he recently had a wonderful dream and thinks it might be connected to her. This catches Jae-hyuk's attention. The chairman begins to describe the vision, explaining that in his dream, he was sitting with So-hee in the yard. The chairman continues, describing the dream. Suddenly, a huge golden calf appeared, startling So-hee so much she fell over. He says he jumped up in shock too. But then, an amazing thing happened. The calf magically shrank and cuddled into So-hee's arms. The chairman excitedly declares it must be a pregnancy dream and asks Jae-hyuk if there's good news. Jae-hyuk, however, looks away, his expression grim. He simply states that he doesn't know, leaving the air thick with unspoken tension. The chairman sighs in disappointment, remarking what a pity it is. He still tells Jae-hyuk to ask So-hee about it, just in case. But as Jae-hyuk turns to leave, he's confronted by President Hong Yun-seok, who is eavesdropping nearby. Yun-seok smirks, asking if it's true about the pregnancy dream. Jae-hyuk flatly denies it, claiming his grandfather was just talking. He quickly excuses himself, telling the chairman he'll take care of everything. Jae-hyuk then reassures his grandfather he'll do his best while he's away, a look of resolve on his face. As President Hong watches Jae-hyuk leave, he immediately asks the chairman if there was a special request. The chairman deflects, then drops a bombshell. He's going on a business trip to England tomorrow. Stunned, Hong listens as the chairman explains he's entrusting Jae-hyuk with the company in his absence. Hong smirks, questioning the decision to give someone so inexperienced full authority. But the chairman is firm, shutting down any argument. He has already put his full faith in Jae-hyuk, a decision that leaves President Hong looking very displeased. Furious, President Hong demands how his father could make such a decision. But the chairman coldly shuts him down, telling him not to make a fuss. He then drops a heavy bombshell, reminding Hong that today marks the death anniversary of his elder brother and that he should go rest. The words hit their mark, silencing Hong completely. He clenches his fist, mutters that he understands, and takes his leave. Alone, the chairman is filled with regret, admitting to himself that it's mostly his fault and he shouldn't have done that back then. So he gazes at an ultrasound photo, relieved her baby is growing healthy, but a lingering worry troubles her. Later, as she leaves the obstetrics clinic after a checkup, she hopes not to run into anyone she knows. But her luck runs out. Across the hospital lobby, a woman's eyes widen in recognition. The woman, who is with a man, calls out So-hee's name in surprise. So-hee freezes and turns around, shocked to see a familiar face from her past. The unexpected encounter leaves both of them stunned. The woman greets So-hee warmly, reminding her they met last year at a couple's gathering. So-hee asks what brings them to the clinic, and the woman's husband proudly explains his wife is due soon, and they're in for a checkup. After offering her congratulations, So-hee is put on the spot. Seeing her at an obstetrics clinic, her friend excitedly asks if So-hee has some good news of her own. Flustered, So-hee quickly denies it, insisting she's just there for something else, desperate to hide her secret pregnancy. The woman buys So-hee's lie, remarking that it explains why Jae-hyuk isn't with her. Caught in her own web, So-hee stammers in agreement. Luckily, the woman remembers her own checkup and quickly bids So-hee farewell. Back home, So-hee clutches her maternity handbook, replaying the close call in her head. She can't believe she ran into an executive's wife there. Though she thinks she handled it smoothly, a deep sense of unease remains. She desperately tries to convince herself that her secret is safe and nothing will happen. Meanwhile, at the corporate headquarters, Jae-hyuk is lost in thought at his desk. He recalls a hopeful conversation with the chairman, who is convinced he'd had a pregnancy dream about the couple. Jae-hyuk scoffs internally at the idea. A baby? He thinks that's impossible, considering they've already gone their separate ways. He has no clue what's really going on. His brooding is cut short by a knock. An executive enters and hands him a confidential report. Shoving his personal turmoil aside, Jae-hyuk gets right back to business. Jae-hyuk notices Executive Han is in a great mood and asks if something good happened. The executive beams, revealing that his wife is about to give birth. Jae-hyuk offers a standard congratulations. The executive then casually asks him to also pass on his thanks to So-hee. Totally confused, Jae-hyuk asks what he means. The man drops a bombshell. He saw So-hee at the obstetrics clinic last week. This new information stuns Jae-hyuk, who can only ask in disbelief if he really met his wife at the hospital. Executive Han confirms it was a chance encounter. Jae-hyuk plays it cool, stating that So-hee never mentions these things to him. Sensing the tension, the executive worries he overstepped, but Jae-hyuk smoothly thanks him for the information. The man then explains his clinic is in Hwayodong, which is nowhere near their residence. This detail triggers Jae-hyuk's memory. A week ago, So-hee told him she was going to a restaurant in that area. He suddenly recalls her anxious expression from that day and realizes with a jolt that she lied straight to his face. The revelation hits Jae-hyuk like a truck. An obstetrics clinic? Why would So-hee go there? His mind flashes back to the chairman's dream, but he quickly dismisses the thought. He wonders if she could be sick. Pushing aside his confusion, he calls out to Executive Han just as the man is about to leave. With a tense and serious expression, Jae-hyuk demands to know the exact name of the hospital. He's clearly not letting this go. He needs answers, and he's going to get them himself. Jae-hyuk sat alone in his office, staring at the small card in his hand. University Hospital. He racked his brain, wondering why So-hee would go there. It wasn't her usual hospital, nor was it anywhere near her home. A chilling thought crossed his mind. Did she go right after she left him because she was sick? Elsewhere, So-hee's expression hardened with resolve. She declared that there was nothing between them anymore and warned him to stop interfering in her life. It was over. Jae-hyuk finally accepts her words, telling himself not to interfere. He crushes the hospital note in his hand, resolving that they are strangers now. But his tough act quickly fades. Alone in the silence of his massive office, the weight of their separation hits him hard. He slumps into his chair, gripping his head in frustration and wondering why he still cares so much. Meanwhile, at Perry magazine, So-hee is already building her new life. Her fingers fly across the keyboard, her expression focused and determined to move on without him. While So-hee buries herself in work, a man's voice breaks the silence, asking if she's skipping lunch again. An iced coffee suddenly appears on her desk. Looking up, she's surprised to see Seonwoo. He explains he was on an assignment nearby and noticed she was the only one in the office. So he insists she has too much to do to take a break. He watches her with a look of gentle concern, telling her not to push herself so hard. It seems someone is looking out for our girl. Seonwoo notes that So-hee seems bright, which is a good sign. She brushes it off, saying she's just passionate about her work, but he cuts right to the point. He wasn't talking about her job. He knew she had been struggling because of Jae-hyuk. Trying to keep her composure, So-hee insists she has sorted out her feelings for him. Seonwoo accepts her answer, but then reveals the real reason he's there. He drops a bombshell, telling her he knows she and Jae-hyuk submitted their divorce papers. So-hee is completely stunned. How could he possibly know? Seonwoo drops another bombshell, revealing he thought she was the reason for the divorce. So-hee is utterly flustered by the sudden accusation. He continues, admitting he was worried she might have interfered out of jealousy. The unfair assumption makes her flinch. Hurt and confused, she asks why he would say such things to her. As her mind reels, she clenches her fist under the desk, silently reaffirming her decision. She has truly given up on Jae-hyuk, and she's not going back on her word. As So-hee walks away, Seonwoo's accusations echo in her mind. She wonders why he would suddenly test her like that. A chilling thought crosses her mind. What if he's noticed something? What if he already knows her secret? Her anxiety sharpens into steely resolve. If that's the case, she needs a plan and fast. The scene shifts to another home, where Hwayone has just arrived. Her father, President Hong, greets her with a sly smile. He casually remarks that it's been a long time, signaling that a new scheme is officially in motion. President Hong greets Hwayone, assuring her that his daughter is always welcome. As he invites her to sit, Hwayone gets straight to the point. She reveals that Ji Haesung paid a surprise visit to the company earlier that day. While her father pours a drink, she drops the bombshell. Haesung told her that So-hee and Jae-hyuk got a divorce. President Hong finds it strange that Haesung would bring that up so suddenly. He takes a long sip of his drink, the wheels in his head clearly turning as he processes this juicy piece of information. President Hong smirks, remarking that the divorce went exactly according to their plan. But Haiwan shoots up from her seat, insisting it's not that simple. She reveals the critical problem, so he has photographic evidence. The pictures make it look like Haiwan and Jae-hyuk were having an affair. Panicking, she declares that the photos must be destroyed. If Jae-hyuk sees them and blames her for the divorce, all her efforts to win him over will be wasted. Trembling with frustration, she resolves not to let one picture ruin her long-awaited chance. President Hong cuts through Haiwan's panic, calmly assuring her that he'll handle everything. Still anxious, she asks if he really has a plan. He confirms it with a smug grin, telling her to stop stressing over work. Relief instantly washes over Haiwan's face. She thanks her father, declaring she knew coming to him was the right call. With a chilling smile, President Hong tells her to leave it all to him. He casually takes a long drink, laughing as he savors his new scheme taking shape. President Hong sets his glass down with a thud, his mind fixed on the evidence. He muses that for their plan to work, those photos have to disappear. He envisions the damning picture of Jae-hyuk and Haiwan in a tight embrace, resting in an envelope on a desk. A wicked smile spreads across his face. He sneers at the idea of getting rid of such a precious item. He declares that this isn't a problem at all. In fact, these photos will be the perfect starting point for Jae-hyuk's complete downfall. So he spots Seonwoo and calls him over to the outdoor patio. He walks up, asking if he kept her waiting. She smiles, assuring him she just arrived while continuing to knit a small baby item. Curious, he asks about her new hobby. Beaming with pride, so he explains it's for her baby, who she's nicknamed Dokul. She lovingly cradles her stomach, sharing that the name means sweet like honey, a simple wish for the baby's happiness. Seonwoo's initial confusion melts away as he agrees it's a very pretty name. So he asks Seonwoo if he finished sorting the paintings at the gallery. He confirms he moved everything to his studio right before meeting her. He then casually asks if she found a buyer for the place. So he suddenly grows quiet. A memory flashes of a phone call, where she learned that ever since one particular person expressed interest, all other buyers have mysteriously backed off. Shaking it off, she tells Seonwoo she'll just wait a bit longer. But as she speaks, Seonwoo's expression darkens with a sudden, serious realization. He knows exactly who's behind this. Seonwoo puts it all together, so he is selling the gallery for her baby. He desperately wants to help but clenches his fist, knowing she would feel burdened by his offer. Snapping out of his thoughts when Sohee asks what's wrong, he quickly dismisses it. He then turns to her with genuine concern, asking if she's scared to raise a child alone. So he admits she is, but the pure joy of her baby completely overshadows any fear. Clutching her chest, she says that right now, all she feels is happiness and excitement. Suddenly, Sohee feels a gentle nudge from within and lights up. She tells Seonwoo that her baby, Dokul, agrees with her. Seonwoo watches her, stunned by her strength. He wonders how she can smile so brightly in such a difficult situation, realizing her resilience makes her even more radiant. He's just glad that both mother and child seem so strong. Clenching his fist with resolve, Seonwoo promises to always support her, telling her to ask him for help anytime she needs it. Standing outside her gallery, Sohee waits anxiously, her heart heavy. Her thoughts are suddenly interrupted by a voice remarking that she arrived first. Startled, she looks up and her eyes widen in shock. It's her ex-husband, Jae-hyuk, standing right in front of her. She barely manages to say his name, her voice laced with disbelief. Jae-hyuk simply stares back, his expression cold and unreadable. As they face each other, Sohee can only think to herself that she never, ever imagined their relationship would turn out like this. Jae-hyuk breaks the tense silence, pointing out that manager Hwang is calling her phone. Sohee answers, and the manager reveals that the man who wanted to buy the building last month is interested again. Her blood runs cold as she realizes it has to be Jae-hyuk. Why would he do this? The manager says the buyer wants to tour the building. Taking a deep breath, Sohee agrees. Back in the present, Jae-hyuk calmly asks if she's been well. After a brief, awkward exchange, he suggests they continue their conversation inside. Jae-hyuk agrees, and Sohee leads him into the gallery. Playing the part of a professional, she offers to get him a drink. But he's already distracted, his gaze fixed on a vibrant painting of a tree. He stops in his tracks, captivated. So he turns, flustered, and explains that she hasn't moved the painting yet because it already has an owner. She reaches out to put it away, but Jae-hyuk's voice cuts in. With a sudden, sharp interest, he asks her who could possibly own that piece. Trying to brush him off, Sohee grips the painting and says she'll move it quickly, so they can start the tour. But Jae-hyuk stops her cold, revealing he didn't come for the building. He came for another reason entirely. A confused So-hee asks what he means. Jae-hyuk's gaze hardens as he says he wants to make something crystal clear about that passionate night they spent together at her home. A flashback of their intimate moment hits her like a truck, and So-hee's face goes pale, her eyes widening in pure, unadulterated shock. Stunned, So-hee can't believe he's dredging up their past. She snaps, telling him to stop, there's nothing to discuss. But Jae-hyuk lands a brutal blow, his voice devoid of emotion. He declares that, just as she said, that night meant nothing to him either. The words crush her spirit. Even at the very end, he makes her miserable. Steeling herself, she asks if this is the answer he wanted. With a shaking hand, she presents her wedding ring, a final, heartbreaking symbol of their shattered marriage. Jae-hyuk stammers her name, completely blindsided. Seizing the moment, So-hee asks if he really wants to buy the building. Before he can process it, she grabs his lapel and fiercely agrees to sell it to him. She shoves the wedding ring into his hand, telling him to take it too. Her voice is ice cold as she declares that there's nothing left between them now. With a final, heartbreaking command, she tells him they should never see each other again, the finality of her words shattering the air around them. With a heavy heart, So-hee makes her final declaration, they should never see each other again. Staring at the ring in his palm, Jae-hyuk coldly agrees. He promises to do exactly as she says, confirming that their paths will never cross again. His immediate acceptance is a brutal gut punch, and So-hee visibly flinches at the finality of his words. That was the day they officially parted ways, the painful moment their story together came to a close. Since that day, everything has changed. After that painful day, they only met 2 more times. First, at the courthouse to finalize the divorce. The second and final time was in Jae-hyuk's office to sign over the property. The silence was heavy as So-hee pressed her official seal onto the documents. This was truly their last conversation as a couple. Breaking the tension, Jae-hyuk stated that the money would be sent on time. He then coldly declared that since this was their final goodbye, he was saying it now, ending things on a sterile, business-like note. With their business concluded, Jae-hyuk offers a final, detached farewell, telling So-hee to take care. She quietly agrees, telling him to do the same. With those empty words, their connection was completely severed. A month later, the scene shifts to a tense boardroom meeting. During a project discussion, a new alternative has been proposed by Jong Seonwoo. The team leader puts Jae-hyuk on the spot, demanding his opinion on the new plan. As Seonwoo begins to explain his perspective, Jae-hyuk listens with an unreadable, intense expression. The tense meeting finally concludes. As employees leave, 2 men gossip about the strange vibe between the vice president and artist Jong, noting how unusually sensitive they both were. They speculate that something must have happened between the two. From the sidelines, a smirking man, President Hong Yun-seok, listens in. He approaches Seonwoo as he exits the room, remarking that it's been a while. After Seonwoo acknowledges him, President Hong asks if he'd like to grab a coffee, an offer that catches Seonwoo completely by surprise. President Hong assures Seonwoo the chat won't take long, inviting him for coffee. Inside his office, Hong starts with pleasantries, noting it's their first time meeting since the wedding. He hands a cup to the artist, acting apologetic that coffee is all he can offer. After some more small talk about Seonwoo's return to Korea, Hong finally drops the bomb. He casually asks if Seonwoo was close with Jae-hyuk's wife, cutting straight to the heart of his suspicion. The friendly facade instantly melts away, revealing his true intentions. President Hong continues his probing, recalling how close Seonwoo and So-hee seemed at the wedding. Seonwoo dismisses this, explaining they simply grew up like siblings. Unfazed, Hong feigns concern, saying it must be upsetting given their history, and then asks if Seonwoo has heard the news. Visibly tensing, Seonwoo asks what he means. When Hong presses, Seonwoo finally reveals he knows about So-hee's divorce. A sly grin spreads across Hong's face as he claims it's a relief he didn't overstep. Suspicious, Seonwoo demands to know why he brought her up. President Hong puts on a show, claiming he was only asking about So-hee out of concern since she was family. Seonwoo, not buying it for a second, insists there's nothing to worry about. With a predatory grin, Hong pushes further, asking if the divorce was because Jae-hyuk did something wrong. The question catches Seonwoo off guard. As the president continues his slimy act, Seonwoo is suddenly lost in a painful memory, a desperate So-hee, tears in her eyes, pleading with him for help. The weight of that moment hits him all over again. The memory hits him hard, a devastated So-hee begging him to help keep a secret from Jae-hyuk. Jared back to the present, Seonwoo bolts upright from his chair. He quickly apologizes to President Hong, stating he has an urgent matter and has to go. As Seonwoo strides out of the office, Hong watches with a chilling smile, telling him to take care. Alone in the hallway, Seonwoo can't shake the president's venomous last question, which now echoes relentlessly in his mind. The accusation had clearly hit its mark. Sienwa's mind flashes back to a sunnier day, where he sat painting at his easel. A younger, vibrant Sohee called out his name, startling him from his work. Full of energy, she bounced over to his side, trying to get a peek at the canvas, and asking what he was drawing. A little flustered, Sienwa promised to show her when it was done. Sohee just laughed, playfully accusing him of teasing her. The sweet memory of their easy friendship fades, leaving only her name echoing in his thoughts. Sienwa's mind then flashes to a far more painful memory, her wedding day. A beautiful but solemn Sohee, dressed in white, spotted him among the guests. He told her she looked pretty, and she quietly thanked him. With a heavy heart, Sienwa admitted he couldn't believe she was married. Sohee confessed she felt the same way, but told him not to worry. She made a promise to live happily and well, a vow that now rings hollow as he recalls her standing at the altar with Jae-hyuk. The memory of their wedding day flashes through Sienwa's mind. He remembers clapping for the couple, genuinely believing Sohee's promise to live a happy life. He had sincerely congratulated her, trusting her words completely. But now, a dark thought takes hold. Stepping out of his car in the present, he stares up at the towering corporate building with grim determination. He questions what would happen if her happiness was never real. What if everything he thought he knew was a lie from the very beginning? Sienwa slams his car door, his thoughts racing. He recalls that Sohee's behavior had always felt a bit strange. Putting the car in gear, his resolve hardens. He knows he needs to meet her right now. Meanwhile, in another country, the chairman walks with his aide. The aide confirms their work is complete. The chairman smirks, relieved that this means he won't have to hand the company over to Jae-hyuk. With his business done, he announces it's finally time to return to Korea. The chairman thinks to himself with a sly grin. Once he's back in Korea, he plans to deliver some happy news to Jae-hyuk and Sohee. Back in the office, a lawyer presents Jae-hyuk with a folder. He explains that the documents confirm the ownership transfer of a gallery. Jae-hyuk dismisses the need to check them, stating his trust in the lawyer's work. But the lawyer isn't finished. He cuts straight to the point, demanding the real reason Jae-hyuk bought a gallery he doesn't even need just to give money to Sohee. Jae-hyuk remains stone-faced, giving the lawyer no answer. Realizing he's pushing too hard, the lawyer backs down, saying it's not his place to pry any further. He simply advises Jae-hyuk to read the documents properly and announces his departure. The office door clicks shut, leaving Jae-hyuk completely alone in the massive, silent room. He slumps forward in his chair, rubbing his temple. The vast, empty office suddenly feels like a cage, highlighting just how isolated he truly is now that Sohee is gone. Ji Haesung walks through the office, looking grim. He can't stop thinking about how gloomy Jae-hyuk has been ever since things ended with Sohee. His thoughts are cut short when his phone buzzes in his pocket. He pulls it out and is surprised to see Haiwan's name on the screen. He answers, and she immediately asks about his meeting with Jae-hyuk. Haesung explains that his brother seemed busy and distracted with the divorce being finalized. He then firmly warns Haiwan not to bring up the divorce to Jae-hyuk. Haiwan ends a call, claiming she has a legal meeting. But as soon as the line goes dead, a sly, triumphant smile appears on her face. The rumors were true. Jae-hyuk really is divorced. With a newfound sense of purpose, she walks down the hallway, her heels clicking against the floor. She unlocks a door and steps inside, her mind racing. This is it. This is her chance. A giddy laugh escapes her as she covers her mouth, realizing her moment has finally arrived. She pulls out her phone, her expression hardening with resolve. Wasting no time, Haiwan decides her moment is now and quickly sends a message. Later that night, Jae-hyuk trudges back to his cold, empty apartment, looking completely drained. As he walks toward his bedroom, a figure suddenly lunges from the shadows. It's Haiwan. She throws her arms around him, eagerly calling his name. Caught completely off guard, Jae-hyuk can only mutter her name in surprise. With a soft confirmation, she leans in and presses a kiss to his cheek, making her move now that he's finally single. Haiwan wastes no time, pressing herself against a stunned Jae-hyuk and deepening her kiss. He's too emotionally drained to resist her advances. She whispers his name, guiding his unsteady steps from the hallway and toward the bedroom. With a gentle push, they both fall onto the bed. Looking down at him with a victorious glint in her eyes, Haiwan boldly declares her love for him. As she leans in close, she savors the thought that he is finally hers. This is the moment she has been waiting for. Waking up the next morning, Haiwan is still basking in the glow of the previous night, feeling like she's in a dream. But her blissful mood quickly fades to impatience as she wonders why Jae-hyuk hasn't called yet. Convinced she's on the verge of victory, she decides to make the next move herself. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk is back at his desk, all business. He coolly informs team leader Ju that he's already reviewed the meeting report and to proceed as planned. He then dismisses any suggestion of adjusting his packed schedule, coldly focusing on his work. Jae-hyuk completely buries himself in his work, running meetings and reviewing reports with an icy focus. He shows no emotion, just a relentless drive to get things done. But once he's alone in the back of his car, the professional mask slips. The sheer exhaustion hits him, and he pinches the bridge of his nose, trying to ward off a headache. His driver, Secretary Yu, catches a glimpse of his troubled boss in the rearview mirror. Seeing his chance, he carefully calls out to Jae-hyuk, who calmly responds, still trying to hold himself together. Noticing his boss's exhaustion, Secretary Yu offers him a moment of rest. Jae-hyuk flatly refuses, pushing to continue with the schedule as planned. A few days later at Hongsung Electronics, Jae-hyuk is surprised to learn his workday is already over. His assistant confesses he secretly cleared the calendar. He explains that he was worried about Jae-hyuk pushing himself to the brink and has arranged a forced break until the next morning. It seems even his own staff can see he's about to collapse from the strain. With his schedule finally cleared by his assistant, a drained Jae-hyuk decides to head home. He steps into his silent, empty apartment, the sheer exhaustion hitting him like a ton of bricks as he shrugs off his jacket. It's been forever since he's gotten home at a reasonable hour. Just as he loosens his tie, ready to wash up, his phone buzzes. It's a message from Ji Haesung. Jae-hyuk sighs, looking at the mysterious link and wondering what kind of trouble his meddling relative has cooked up for him this time. Expecting another prank, Jae-hyuk taps the link. His screen doesn't show a meme, but a knitting class tutorial. He's about to dismiss it when a gentle voice makes him freeze solid. The woman on screen speaks warmly, explaining how to knit a small sweater for a baby. That voice, that's unmistakable. As the video shows familiar hands skillfully weaving yarn into a tiny vest, the realization hits him like a lightning bolt. Staring at the screen in utter shock, he recognizes his wife. It's Sohee. Sohee wraps up filming her knitting tutorial, waving goodbye to her subscribers. The moment the camera is off, she lets out a deep sigh. Trying to earn a living this way is much harder than she imagined. Just then, her phone rings, shattering the quiet. It's Chairman Hong. Answering politely, she's caught completely off guard when he announces he's returning to Korea. He then proposes a weekend meal with both her and Jae-hyuk. So he is stunned, the very idea of sitting down with her soon-to-be ex-husband making her heart pound. Realizing Jae-hyuk hasn't told the chairman about their divorce, so he is caught in a tough spot. Sensing her hesitation, the chairman kindly offers to meet her alone first. Instead of dodging the issue, she decides to face it head-on. She explains there's something important she needs to tell him in person. Hearing the seriousness in her voice, he agrees to meet as soon as he lands in Korea. After the call, so he worries about how he'll take the news, but feels telling him herself is the right thing to do. Jae-hyuk's mind is reeling as he stares at the phone. A haunting memory flashes before his eyes. So he's standing in a doorway, proudly holding up that exact same tiny sweater. Her hopeful voice had asked if he thought it was cute. He remembers his own crushing silence. Snapping back to the present, he frantically rewinds the video. Her gentle instructions on knitting for a baby play again, each word hitting him like a physical blow. The finished product on screen confirms the unbelievable truth he had ignored. As Sohee's cheerful sign-off ends the knitting tutorial, Jae-hyuk's finger jabs at the screen, freezing her happy wave. The sudden silence is deafening. His hand, the wedding ring a cold weight on his finger, slowly clenches into a white-knuckled fist. The truth he so callously ignored hits him with the force of a physical blow. The air is punched out of him as he doubles over, head in his hands. Every stitch she demonstrated was part of a future he had carelessly thrown away, and the regret is completely crushing him. Jae-hyuk is trying to focus at his desk when he gets an unexpected visitor, his cousin, attorney Ji Haesung. Haesung strolls in with a smile, handing over the legal team's report. Jae-hyuk, clearly distracted, brushes him off, questioning why Haesung delivered it himself. Haesung gives a casual excuse about another meeting nearby. Just as he's about to walk out, Jae-hyuk's sharp tone stops him cold. With an intense gaze, he demands to know exactly what that link was that Haesung sent him yesterday. The air instantly crackles with tension. Haesung plays it cool, pretending he just stumbled upon the video while browsing NetYube. He claims it was a recommended video and he only sent it after recognizing Sohee's voice. With a dismissive wave, he tells Jae-hyuk it means nothing and makes a quick exit, saying he's busy. Left alone, Jae-hyuk's suspicion deepens. This chance encounter feels just like seeing Haesung at the obstetrics clinic. Nothing is adding up. Overwhelmed by the web of coincidences and the crushing reality, he covers his face, his thoughts consumed by Sohee. Jae-hyuk stews in his office, his thoughts consumed by one question. What is Haesung really up to? Meanwhile, his cousin pulls up to a quiet, institutional building. Stepping out of his car, Haesung looks at the familiar structure with a thoughtful expression. A woman greets him at the entrance, expressing her deep gratitude for his consistent monthly visits. He gives a polite bow, humbly telling her it's nothing and that he comes because he wants to. With a final farewell, he heads on his way, leaving his true motives a complete mystery. As Haesung walks away, he reflects on his volunteering. It's ironic. When he and Haiwan stayed at this place, all he wanted was to leave, but now he returns every month. His path takes him past a familiar playground, and he stops. A distant memory surfaces. This was Haiwan's old hiding spot. He remembers being a kid, always having to come to this very playground to search for her. It's been a long time since he last thought about those days. A flashback pulls Haesung into the past. As a boy, he frantically searches, calling out for Haiwan. He follows the faint sound of crying to the playground and discovers her huddled beneath a slide. She looks up, her face streaked with tears, and confesses that she misses her mom. As Haesung tries to find the right words, she clarifies that she knows her mom passed away. But knowing doesn't stop the pain. She just misses her so much. This raw, emotional memory is rooted in their time together at the Hope Orphanage. Haesung recalls their past. After losing their mother, he and Haiwan were sent to Hope Orphanage. Whenever Haiwan missed their mom, she would sneak away to the playground to cry. Hating her sadness, but feeling helpless, young Haesung realized the only thing he could do was quietly hold her and offer comfort. The memory fades as an elevator dings in the present. Haesung, now a confident attorney, steps out. A man at a reception desk greets him in surprise, and Haesung simply tells him to lead the way inside. Haesung is led into the office of President Hong Yunseok. The two men exchange polite greetings, with the president asking if Haesung has been well. President Hong apologizes for calling him in on such short notice, but Haesung assures him it's no trouble. Wasting no time, the president invites him to sit and immediately gets to the heart of the matter. He asks directly if the rumors are true. Did Jae-hyuk really get divorced recently? After a brief pause, Haesung confirms that, yes, he did. With a smug grin, President Hong pushes a document toward Haesung, declaring it's time for them to make their move. A confused Haesung takes the paper, asking what it's for. The president explains it's a way to secure Haiwan's happiness. That single word sends Haesung spiraling into another memory from the orphanage. He recalls urging a reluctant Haiwan to get ready for an event. He insisted they had to go because their sponsoring chairman was visiting, and it was crucial they greet him properly. Haesung's mind drifts back to a pivotal day at the orphanage. He recalls the chairman visiting, but this time, he brought a quiet, handsome boy with him. While Haesung politely introduced himself and his sister, Haiwan stood by with her usual gloomy expression. Everything changed the second the boy introduced himself as Hong Jae-hyuk. For the first time ever, the permanent scowl on Haiwan's face vanished. A bright blush crept onto her cheeks as she shyly stated her own name, completely captivated by the boy in front of her. Haesung recalls the one time he saw his sister genuinely smile, the day she met Jae-hyuk. But that memory is tainted by another, the day of Jae-hyuk's wedding. He remembers finding Haiwan completely shattered, a wreck on her bedroom floor. Seeing her so miserable, he vowed to protect her happiness at all costs. Now, back in the present, a chilling resolve hardens his expression. He looks at President Hong and agrees to the plan, a cold smile confirming he is ready to do whatever it takes. President Hong smirks, admitting he's surprised by how much Haesung cares for his sister. Fully committed, Haesung asks what he needs to do to help. The president waves him off, explaining there's nothing to do right now, but he will be called upon when the time is right. To solidify their alliance, President Hong declares that he views both Haesung and Haiwan as his own family. That single word hits a nerve, and his sister's voice suddenly echoes in Haesung's mind, calling out for her brother from a distant memory. So he finds Haesung completely lost in his thoughts, asking what has him so preoccupied. When he admits he was distracted, she playfully reminds him that he's here to rest, not worry about work. He agrees to clear his mind, but she teases that she can't trust his words alone. To prove his point, Haesung suddenly stands and pulls her into a firm embrace. The swift, possessive gesture leaves her completely stunned and speechless in his arms, her eyes wide with surprise as he holds her close. President Hong's words about family ring in Haesung's ears. He stares down at his phone, looking at an old, happy photo of him and Haiwan as children with their mother. The image triggers a flood of painful memories. He can almost hear his sister's voice calling his name, followed by his mother's urgent warning from long ago. She had told him to be careful of that person and to always remember her words. The weight of that promise resurfaces, hardening his resolve as the forgotten advice becomes crystal clear. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk tries to drink his problems away at a quiet bar, staring blankly into his glass. As he's lost in thought, a figure approaches from behind, the sound of their steps cutting through the silence. The man rests his hand on a nearby stool and coolly notes that Jae-hyuk is early. Looking up, Jae-hyuk is completely stunned to find Se-inwa standing before him. Confused and on edge, Jae-hyuk immediately demands to know what he's doing here. Se-inwa just looks down at him, a calm expression on his face. Se-inwa calmly reminds Jae-hyuk that he was the one who asked to have a drink first. Jae-hyuk dodges the real issue, claiming he's just been busy and wanted to unwind. Unconvinced, Se-inwa mentions that he thought something might be on his mind. Jae-hyuk denies it again, insisting he simply felt like having a drink after a long time. The bartender serves them, and Se-inwa seems to accept the weak excuse for now. They clink their glasses together, but Se-inwa's sharp gaze never leaves Jae-hyuk, clearly sensing something is deeply wrong. Se-inwa breaks the silence, reminding Jae-hyuk they've known each other since they were 15. He admits that's why he doesn't understand what people say about him. Jae-hyuk asks what he means, looking confused. Se-inwa explains that everyone thinks Jae-hyuk is impossible to read, a man whose thoughts are always hidden. But he calls him out directly, saying that right now, it's all written plainly on his face. Jae-hyuk's expression hardens as he demands to know exactly what Se-inwa is trying to say. The tension is thick between them. Se-inwa cuts right to the chase, telling Jae-hyuk that his feelings are painfully obvious. He looks him dead in the eye and says that even now, he's still struggling because he can't forget So-hee. The name makes Jae-hyuk freeze in his seat. Snapping out of it, he slams his glass on the counter and tries to deny it, but the words fail him. Unfazed, Se-inwa calmly questions his weak protest, finding it strange. He insists that from his point of view, it's clear that Jae-hyuk is still hung up on her. Changing the subject, Hong Yun-seok points out how exhausted Jae-hyuk looks. He declares that he wants to tell him something. Wary, Jae-hyuk demands to know what he's talking about. Yun-seok leans in with a confident smirk, suggesting that he might be able to help with his problem. He then dangles a mysterious proposition, asking if Jae-hyuk is interested in hearing his idea. The question hangs in the air as Jae-hyuk stares at his drink, considering the cryptic offer from the company president. Se-inwa asks if Jae-hyuk wants to know what's so obvious about his expression. Turning away, Jae-hyuk scoffs and tells him to forget it, questioning what the point is now. But Se-inwa stops him cold, asking what he would do if his relationship with So-hee wasn't actually over. Jae-hyuk freezes, his drink hovering in his hand. He demands to know what Se-inwa is talking about. Taking a slow sip from his own glass, Se-inwa calmly states that it's exactly what it sounds like. He then reveals the shocking truth. The divorce isn't finalized yet. Jae-hyuk shoots to his feet, shouting at Se-inwa. He accuses him of failing to handle the legal paperwork as promised. Unfazed, Se-inwa calmly explains the situation. Because their divorce was a mutual agreement, it holds no legal power until it's officially reported to the district office, a step Jae-hyuk never took. Jae-hyuk demands to know why he's only hearing about this now. Se-inwa admits he kept it quiet on purpose. He knew that if Jae-hyuk had known, he would have rushed to finalize it without properly considering his or So-hee's true feelings. Se-inwa explains that he held off because Jae-hyuk had looked like he was about to make a choice he'd seriously regret. He decided to wait until his friend's feelings for So-hee were properly sorted out. Leaning in, Se-inwa insists that it's not too late, reminding Jae-hyuk that he and So-hee are still legally a married couple. The news leaves Jae-hyuk completely stunned. Se-inwa then holds out a small USB drive, explaining that it contains the necessary documents to submit to the district office. He tells Jae-hyuk to take it, placing the final decision in his hands. With the final choice now in Jae-hyuk's hands, Se-inwa leaves him alone to wrestle with his decision. The USB drive sits on the table, a silent testament to the future he could either reclaim or throw away. Later, So-hee arrives at a high-end restaurant called Moonlight. She is led to a private room, where she finds Se-inwa waiting for her. She apologizes for being late, but he greets her with a warm smile, assuring her that he just got there himself before asking if she's hungry. Se-inwa suggests they order the lunch set, and So-hee agrees. He calls over a waiter and places their order, but adds a very specific request: no dishes with clams or shrimp. After the food arrives, So-hee stares at her plate, stunned. She asks if he remembered her allergies. Se-inwa confirms matter-of-factly, reminding her that she's had them since they were little. Touched by his thoughtfulness, So-hee recalls that he has always been this considerate. So-hee reflects on how Se-inwa has always been this way, seemingly uncaring on the outside, but incredibly considerate deep down. He really hasn't changed a bit. She suddenly thanks him, which catches him completely off guard. She explains it's for his kindness and for listening to her problems with Jae-hyuk. A little flustered, Se-inwa dismisses her thanks and tells her to eat before the food gets cold. But as their meal begins, the mood shifts. Se-inwa gets serious, revealing the real reason he invited her. He has something important to tell her about his project with Hong Sung Electronics. So he already knows. Sianwoo continues, explaining that once his work is finished, he'll be returning to the US and won't be able to see her anymore. Hearing this, So-hee quietly says it's a shame, admitting to herself that she's felt so at ease with him around. Losing her appetite, she sets her utensils down. Sianwoo sees this as his opening. He puts his hands together, his expression turning serious as he calls her name. He then asks if she would consider going to the US with him. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk is trapped in a stuffy business dinner, completely ignoring the feast before him. President Hong Yun-seok suddenly breaks the silence, telling Jae-hyuk it's not too late for him and So-hee, since they're still technically married. The mention of the vice chairman title makes Jae-hyuk's head snap up, his expression hardening. An associate notices his foul mood and asks if he's alright. Playing it off, Jae-hyuk claims he has a headache and asks to step outside for some air, quickly getting permission to make his escape from the tense meeting. Stepping out for air, Jae-hyuk is tormented by the president's words. A married couple? He knows that in So-hee's eyes, their relationship is already over. Running a hand through his hair in pure frustration, he feels completely lost. Just then, he hears a voice that stops him dead in his tracks. It's So-hee. He listens in, his blood running cold as he overhears her telling another man she felt at ease with him around. His face hardens as he sees her sitting across from Sianwoo, the unintended confession hitting him like a physical blow. Frozen in the hallway, Jae-hyuk's mind races as he overhears Sianwoo's shocking proposal for So-hee to go to the US with him. From his hidden vantage point, he can only watch as Sianwoo doubles down on the offer. He promises to take full responsibility for her. But then comes the final, devastating blow. Sianwoo declares he will also take responsibility for the child So-hee is pregnant with. The confession hits Jae-hyuk like a physical force, and his entire world comes crashing down around him. Frozen in the hallway, Jae-hyuk's mind races as he overhears Sianwoo's shocking question. Sianwoo asks So-hee if she's really okay raising the child alone. The word child hits Jae-hyuk like a physical force, and he stumbles back against the wall, his entire world crashing down. From his hidden vantage point, he can only listen as Sianwoo doubles down. He promises to take full responsibility not just for her, but for the baby she's carrying, if she'll just agree to come to the US with him. Sianwoo lays all his cards on the table. He tells So-hee he will officially register their marriage and become the child's father, if she'll just come to the US with him. Hidden in the dark hallway, Jae-hyuk can barely breathe. The news sends him reeling against the wall, his mind a whirlwind of confusion. Pregnant? When did it even happen? But another, more agonizing question burns through the shock, completely shattering what's left of his world. Whose child is it? He peeks around the corner, his face a mask of torment. As So-hee starts to speak, Jae-hyuk flinches and turns away, unable to listen anymore. The devastating truth sends him stumbling down the hallway, every step a struggle. He collapses against the wall, his mind a chaotic storm of regret and pain. He clutches his head, haunted by memories of his own coldness and every opportunity he missed. The weight of it all is crushing him. Back at the table, So-hee finally calls out to Sianwoo, ready to give him her answer about his life-changing offer. So-hee finally breaks the silence, telling Sianwoo she never wanted anything from him, which just confuses him more. With quiet strength, she declares that she and her child will be perfectly fine on their own. She has her own plans and is preparing for their future. Sianwoo tries to explain that he only confided in her because he needed someone to share his worries with. But So-hee sees the truth. With a sad smile, she notes that he still looks at her like a helpless child who needs saving, not an equal. So-hee finally looks at Sianwoo and admits she isn't happy about him going so far just to help her. The honesty stuns him. He quickly tries to explain, insisting his offer isn't out of pity. He lays his heart on the line, telling her that he just needs her. But So-hee has already made up her mind. She thanks him for the meal and promptly gets up to leave. Shocked by her sudden departure, Sianwoo leaps to his feet, desperately calling her name and telling her to wait. Sianwoo is left standing in utter shock, watching her go as the sound of her steady footsteps fades away. Without looking back, So-hee walks out of the restaurant and disappears into the bright, busy street. As she walks alone, her mind races. She can't believe what Sianwoo just told her. So-hee knows he meant well and was just worried, but the truth hurts. More than anything, she had hoped he wouldn't be another person who just pitted her. His words felt like a confirmation of exactly that. Walking alone, So-hee sighs, disappointed. All she wanted was for Sianwoo to support her as she is, not see her as a project to be saved. Her thoughts are cut short when her phone buzzes loudly. Her eyes widen in shock when she sees the caller ID, Chairman Hong. Answering nervously, she hears his friendly voice ask if she's free. He gets straight to the point, revealing he just returned to Korea and wants to have lunch tomorrow. Though caught off guard, So-hee quickly agrees to the meeting. The next day, So-hee arrives to meet Chairman Hong at an elegant, traditional-style restaurant. He greets her with a warm, welcoming smile, glad to see her after his trip. The pleasantries quickly turn awkward when he thanks her for taking care of Jae-hyuk in his absence. So-hee's expression immediately darkens, and she denies having worked hard at all. The chairman's smile fades into concern as he notices how unwell she looks. He asks if she's sick, but she quickly blames it on a lack of sleep, though he doesn't seem to believe her. So-hee quickly brushes off his concern, promising to see a doctor if she ever feels truly sick. Chairman Hong accepts her answer, saying that a good meal is the best medicine, and leads her inside the restaurant. As they walk, So-hee's mind races with guilt. How can she possibly tell this kind man that she's divorcing his son? Her anxious thoughts are shattered when she looks up and freezes. Standing right in front of them is Jae-hyuk's grandfather. Before anyone can react, a glamorous woman walks in, calling out to the chairman as Grandpa. So-hee instantly recognizes the glamorous woman as Haiwan and asks what brings her here. With a practiced smile, Haiwan explains her team is having a company dinner nearby. Her eyes then shift, landing on So-hee with feigned surprise. So-hee's stomach plummets at the sight of her. Moving closer, Haiwan greets her, her voice dripping with fake politeness as she remarks that it's been a while. With a dark glint in her eyes, she then asks if So-hee has been doing well, the question landing more like a threat than a pleasantry. Haiwan's question about So-hee's well-being feels more like a jab. Her eyes dart around before she smirks, noting Jae-hyuk's absence. She pokes the bear, asking if something happened between the two of them. The chairman quickly scolds her, but Haiwan casually drops a bombshell. She's on a date with him. The reveal hits So-hee like a truck, her expression showing pure shock. Haiwan offers a phony apology, but So-hee, stunned into silence, can only manage to say that it's fine, trying desperately to keep her composure. With a final, parting shot, Haiwan announces she's returning to her dinner and walks away. The chairman dismisses her and gently ushers the shell-shocked So-hee into their private room. A massive feast covers the table, but the mood is anything but celebratory. Cutting straight to the point, he asks her what's been bothering her so much that she needed to meet him alone. So-hee looks down, the anxiety written all over her face. Taking a shaky breath, she finally admits there's something important she has to tell him, and it's clearly not good news. The chairman patiently urges So-hee to speak her mind. With her hands clenching into tight fists, she musters all her courage to finally confess. Her voice is strained as she drops the absolute bombshell. She and Jae-hyuk are divorced. The news completely blindsides the chairman, who stammers in pure disbelief. His hand trembles as he processes the shock, demanding to know when they could have made such a huge decision. So he can only look down, unable to meet his furious, questioning gaze as the weight of her words hangs in the air. With a pained expression, So-hee admits it's been about a month since they filed the papers. The chairman's voice cracks with fury, questioning how they could finalize a divorce without telling him. So-hee can only offer a quiet apology, explaining she felt it was her duty to tell him face-to-face. Completely overwhelmed by the news, the chairman lets out a heavy sigh and immediately downs a drink. So-hee's anxiety skyrockets as she watches him, desperately wondering if he's angry with her or just deeply disappointed. The tension is unbearable. The chairman finally understood why she insisted on meeting alone. But So-hee wasn't finished dropping bombshells. Reaching into her bag, she pulled out a bank passbook and placed it on the table. She explained it was a debt she needed to repay him. The chairman, utterly confused, looked at the book. So-hee then revealed that inside was the money she received after selling her father's famous art gallery to Jae-hyuk. The chairman was stunned speechless, unable to process that his own son would make her sell her family's precious legacy. So-hee laid out the shocking details for him. Jae-hyuk had bought her precious gallery for a massive price, calling it a divorce settlement. The chairman, in pure disbelief, questioned why Jae-hyuk would do that and why she was now offering the money to him. So-hee admitted she felt it was right to return it, since the gallery wouldn't have existed without his initial support. But the chairman firmly refused. He slid the passbook back across the table, declaring the money didn't belong to him. Helping her, he insisted, was his own decision. But So-hee firmly insisted that he accept it. She then dropped another bombshell, explaining that after today, they would probably never see each other again. The chairman stared, completely shocked. So-hee confessed that she was always grateful for how he took care of her after she lost her father and was left all alone. Even though her marriage ended this way, she remembered he was the one who brought her and Jae-hyuk together. With a heavy heart, she pleaded for him to take the money, calling it the last way she could repay his kindness. The chairman stared, completely floored by her words. He sighed, admitting that she had surprised him far too many times today. Placing his hand over the passbook, he finally gave in and agreed to her terms. So-hee's shoulders relaxed as she thanked him. With the heavy business settled, the chairman's tone softened. He looked at her with genuine worry, remarking how awful she looked and how much she must have suffered. He urged her to eat, pleading for her to have at least a few spoonfuls of porridge for his sake. So-hee quietly agreed. As So-hee quietly stirred her porridge, the chairman broke the silence. He confessed their divorce was a huge shock, but urged her not to feel burdened for his sake. Still, a deep sense of regret lingered in his voice. He leaned in, asking her what could have possibly led them to this point. Without warning, So-hee suddenly lurched forward in a deep, formal bow. The abrupt, startling movement left the chairman completely stunned and speechless as he stared at her bowed head. As So-hee held her bow, her body suddenly gave out, and she collapsed to the floor. The chairman cried out in alarm, asking what was wrong. On the ground, So-hee's face was pale as she clutched her throat, gasping that she couldn't breathe. In a full-blown panic, the chairman yelled for Haiwan to call an ambulance immediately. As darkness crept in, So-hee's mind raced. She knew she couldn't pass out. With everything she had, she fought to stay conscious, whispering that nothing could happen to her baby. So-hee's world went dark, her last thought a desperate plea to save her baby. At the hospital, she lay unconscious in bed while Haiwan stood by, anxiously biting her thumb. Back at the chairman's house, paramedics loaded So-hee into an ambulance as the chairman watched, his face etched with worry. An EMT announced they were transferring her immediately and asked if a guardian would ride along. The chairman instantly volunteered, clutching his chest and telling them he had already contacted Hongro Hospital. He demanded they get there as fast as possible. Just as the ambulance doors closed, a secretary rushed toward the chairman, his face a mask of panic. The chairman demanded to know what was happening. His secretary, looking distraught, insisted they could talk later, but then urged the chairman to look at his tablet immediately. As the old man's eyes scanned the screen, his expression soured from worry to pure disbelief. Something he saw made his blood run cold. He called for Haiwan, declaring he had to leave due to an urgent matter. He ordered her to go to the hospital and act as So-hee's guardian instead. Haiwan stood over So-hee's hospital bed, her mind reeling. How did things get so out of hand? She had only wanted to mess with her a little. A memory surfaced of her overhearing that So-hee couldn't eat shellfish. With a smirk, she had secretly sent over porridge containing the ingredient. But seeing the chaos and So-hee's collapse, Haiwan realized her prank had gone horribly wrong. Her spiral was interrupted when a doctor walked up, clipboard in hand, and asked if she was So-hee's guardian. Haiwan froze, trapped by her own scheme. Haiwan shakily confirmed she was So-hee's guardian. The doctor began his report, stating that So-hee's treatment was finished. She had collapsed from severe anaphylactic shock caused by an allergy. Luckily, she only ingested a small amount and would be fine after a few days of rest. Haiwan's blood ran cold. She never knew the allergy was so dangerous. Trying to be comforting, the doctor added that the fetus was unharmed and there was no risk of losing the baby. Haiwan froze, utterly stunned, as the doctor casually estimated So-hee was about 17 weeks pregnant. Haiwan's mind blinked. Pregnant? It was impossible. She couldn't believe So-hee was actually pregnant. The doctor advised her to update the chairman and then left the room. Alone, Haiwan's shock curdled into something dark and ugly. She stared at So-hee, who was lying helpless in the hospital bed. Her hands trembled before balling into tight fists. A single, chilling thought echoed in her mind. That baby could absolutely not be born. Her prank had just escalated into a full-blown war, and she was ready to win at any cost. Haiwan refused to believe it. The doctor's words, 17 weeks, echoed in her head as she frantically pulled out her phone. Her fingers flew across the screen, swiping back through the calendar. There was no way. So-hee and Jae-hyuk were completely over. But as she counted back the weeks, a cold, sickening realization washed over her. Her eyes widened in pure horror. The dates lined up perfectly. This baby wasn't from some new lover. It was conceived long before the two of them ever signed divorce papers. The child was Jae-hyuk's. Haiwan's mind raced as she paced the hospital room. Something felt off. She suddenly remembered that So-hee had stormed out demanding a divorce right around the time the baby would have been conceived. The timing didn't add up at all. A twisted, hopeful smile crept across her face. The baby couldn't be Jae-hyuk's. It had to belong to someone else. But her relief was shattered by a chilling new thought. What if, just before the split, the two of them had been together one last time? The dreadful possibility began to sink in. Haiwan's hands tightened on the bed rail. With So-hee gone, Jae-hyuk was finally on his own, free for the taking. But this baby complicated everything. A dark thought took root as she stared at the unconscious woman. Why was she still in the way? A sinister shadow fell over the bed as Haiwan reached a trembling hand towards So-hee's throat. But just as her fingers made contact, So-hee stirred. Her eyes slowly opened, landing on the woman looming over her. Weak and confused, she softly questioned what Haiwan was doing there. Caught in the act, Haiwan's sinister plan shatters. She lunges at the still weak Sohee, grabbing her shoulders with a frantic grip. Shaking her relentlessly, Haiwan furiously demands to know whose baby she is carrying. Terrified by the sudden assault, Sohee weakly pleads for her to stop. But Haiwan is completely unhinged. Her eyes are wide with desperation as she continues to shake Sohee, her voice cracking as she begs her to say it isn't true, that the baby isn't Jaehyuk's. With a crazed look, Haiwan begs Sohee to tell her the baby isn't Jaehyuk's. But before Sohee can respond, a powerful force yanks Haiwan away, throwing her off balance. Jaehyuk stands in the doorway, his expression absolutely glacial. An aura of pure rage radiates from him as he locks eyes with Haiwan. In a low, threatening voice, he demands to know exactly what she thinks she's doing. Haiwan freezes, caught red-handed and facing the wrath of the man she's obsessed with. So he stares, stunned, wondering why Jaehyuk is suddenly in her room. Caught in the act, Haiwan panics and desperately claims it's all a misunderstanding. But Jaehyuk's icy glare silences her. He takes a slow, deliberate step forward, his shadow engulfing the terrified woman. He tells her he saw everything, her yelling and getting aggressive with a patient who had just opened her eyes. Leaning in, he demands to know how she dares call her disgusting behavior a misunderstanding. Haiwan can only tremble under his crushing presence. Backed into a corner, Haiwan spins a desperate lie. She claims she just found out Sohee is pregnant and, since they're divorced, she assumed Sohee had found another man. Acting as his defender, she insists she only got angry on his behalf. Jaehyuk's expression darkens, his hand clenching into a tight fist as he repeats her words about an other man. He then completely shuts her down, coldly questioning why she's the one who's angry and whoever said the child wasn't his. Her twisted scheme instantly falls apart. Haiwan's face drains of all color, her mind completely short-circuiting. She stammers, asking what he's even talking about. Desperately trying to salvage her fantasy, she insists he must be lying, claiming that he and Sohee were completely over. But Jaehyuk crushes her delusion with a single, freezing word. No. He then turns his gaze to Sohee before locking eyes with Haiwan again, his voice ringing with absolute authority. He declares that the baby in Sohee's belly is his child. Stunned, Haiwan can only tremble, muttering that it can't be true. With his truth bomb dropped, Jaehyuk coldly tells Haiwan to get out. He warns her that if she ever causes a scene like this again, he won't let it slide. Completely and utterly defeated, Haiwan can only turn and walk away in shame. The door clicks shut, leaving an intense silence in the room. Jaehyuk finally turns his full attention to Sohee, his expression unreadable. Now that they are alone, he quietly tells her that it's time for them to talk, setting the stage for a long-overdue confrontation. With the air thick with tension, Jaehyuk finally asks Sohee why she never told him she was pregnant. Sohee defensively states that since they're strangers now, she had no obligation to tell him. Taking it a step further, she lies, insisting the baby isn't his. Jaehyuk calmly presses, asking whose child it is if not his. She refuses to answer, but he cuts her off with a bombshell. He reveals that he met with Seonwoo. Sohee's composure completely shatters, her eyes widening in pure panic as she demands to know why. Jaehyuk explains that it was Seonwoo who told him she was pregnant and that the baby was his. The betrayal stuns Sohee, who can't understand why Seonwoo would do that. Jaehyuk continues, revealing he already spoke to the doctor. He knows she's 16 to 17 weeks along, a timeline that perfectly matches the night he showed up at her place drunk. Flustered and completely cornered, Sohee is left speechless. Suddenly, Jaehyuk drops to his knees beside her bed, gently taking her hand. She flinches, telling him to get up, but he simply looks at her, his voice full of meaning as he says her name. Jaehyuk finally breaks, admitting he was wrong for everything. He confesses he was thoughtless, that he never treated her warmly, and that he's sorry for leaving her alone for 3 long years. Overwhelmed, Sohee tells him to stop, insisting it's over between them. Jaehyuk agrees, but desperately wishes he could turn back time. He believes if he could just redo the past 3 years, maybe then she would have learned to trust him, even just a little. His confession leaves Sohee trembling, completely speechless. Sohee is stunned, realizing she's never seen Jaehyuk look so full of regret. A memory hits her, his cold words after their night together, telling her to pretend it never happened to make things easier. Snapping back to the present, her resolve hardens. She pulls her hand away from his, firmly telling him no. Sohee declares that time can't be turned back, and even if it could, she would still make the same choice to leave him. Despite the pain in her eyes, her decision is final. Sohee lays it all out, her voice cutting through his regret. She tells him it's over, explaining that they were worse than strangers even when they were married. His apology now can't erase the years of coldness she already endured. She tells him to go and stop worrying about her or the baby, because it doesn't matter if he's the father. Stunned into silence, Jae-hyuk simply says, okay. He slowly rises to his feet and walks away. So he watches him leave, her eyes wide with shock, unable to believe he actually gave up. Just as he reaches the door, Jae-hyuk stops. He doesn't turn back, but his voice is heavy with emotion. He tells her there's just one thing she needs to know. Everything he confessed, all of his regret and his desperate apologies, he truly meant every single word. With that final, heartfelt admission, he walks away without looking back. His heavy footsteps echo down the empty hall, leaving Sohee sitting alone, completely frozen. She stares at the empty doorway, unable to process that he is actually gone. Haiwon stumbles away from the hospital, her mind reeling. She refuses to believe it, there's just no way. The shocking truth hits her, Sohee is pregnant with Jae-hyuk's child. A memory of their wedding day cracks and shatters in her mind. They were supposed to be over for good. How could this be happening? And Jae-hyuk knew everything? Her disbelief quickly boils into pure, unadulterated rage. Her face twists in fury as she finally accepts the unbelievable truth. Cha So-hee is carrying Jae-hyuk's baby. Panicked and desperate, Haiwon decides this cannot stand. Her hands shake as she quickly dials a number. Her father, Ji Haesung, picks up and she immediately begs him for help. He asks what happened, and she reveals the devastating news. Cha So-hee is in the hospital, pregnant with Jae-hyuk's baby. Ji Haesung is stunned, demanding to know if it's really Jae-hyuk's child. Haiwon confirms it, adding that Jae-hyuk rushed to So-hee's side and told her to leave. The line goes quiet as Ji Haesung processes this shocking new development. On the phone, Haiwon pleads with her father, insisting So-hee must have planned this pregnancy. She begs him to tell her what to do, but his response is a gut punch. Ji Haesung coldly calls her situation pitiful and says it's not his problem to solve. He scolds her for failing to win Jae-hyuk over, then thanks her for the useful information. Before she can process the betrayal, he says good work, and hangs up. Utterly abandoned and enraged, Haiwon lets out a scream and smashes her phone against the pavement. Inside his high-rise office, President Hong hangs up with a cruel smirk. He'd always seen his daughter as a disposable pawn, but she had just delivered some truly priceless information. A child with an ex-wife? This was the perfect ammunition to use against Jae-hyuk. Realizing the opportunity before him, he doesn't hesitate. He marches straight into the chairman's private office with a look of pure determination. The chairman looks up from his work, clearly surprised by President Hong's sudden and unannounced arrival, and asks what brings him here. The chairman greets President Hong, maintaining a calm exterior despite the unscheduled visit. He makes polite small talk, asking about Hong's recent trip to England. After a secretary brings them tea, the chairman cuts straight to the point. He asks President Hong if he knew about Jae-hyuk's divorce. The chairman admits he was already aware, but felt it was a matter for Jae-hyuk to discuss himself. Hearing this, a smug grin spreads across President Hong's face. He knew the chairman was in the dark about the whole story, giving him the perfect opening. President Hong probes further, asking how the chairman knew about the divorce when it was kept so quiet. The chairman vaguely replies that he simply paid attention. Unconvinced, Hong points out that not a single news article was published, a feat too difficult for Jae-hyuk alone. He correctly accuses the chairman of blocking the press. With a condescending laugh, the chairman admits it. He claims it was his duty to help his struggling nephew. The chairman's patience snaps. He slaps a newspaper onto the desk, demanding to know what this damaging new article is about. The chairman explodes with rage, scoffing at President Hong's supposed concern for his nephew. He accuses Hong of waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. He claims Hong planned all along to frame the situation as an affair, all to drag Jae-hyuk's name through the mud. President Hong weakly attempts to call it a misunderstanding, but the chairman is relentless. He declares his only mistake was misjudging Hong's character. Then, he drops the bombshell. He knows Haiwon is Hong's daughter, revealing he'd investigated everyone Hong secretly sponsored. President Hong's face drains of all color. The chairman's rage boils over. He yells that he knew all along why President Hong never officially registered Haiwon as his daughter. He accuses Hong of using his own innocent child in this twisted scheme. Cornered, Hong tries to justify his actions, weakly stating that this was what Haiwon wanted. The chairman slams his hand down in disbelief, roaring at the absurd claim. He demands to know what kind of circumstance could possibly drive a man to abandon his own child just to satisfy his greed, leaving Hong completely speechless. The chairman is in disbelief, asking how any parent could be so cruel to their own child. Memories flood his mind, of taking a young President Hong from an orphanage, of raising him like a son. He wonders what happened to that innocent boy. But Hong's sorrowful act shatters. He clenches his fist, a dark smirk spreading across his face. He claims he's the same person he's always been. Then, he flips the accusation, chillingly asking if it wasn't the chairman who changed. Enraged by this audacity, the chairman explodes, screaming at the ungrateful brat. President Hong's sorrow vanishes, replaced by pure venom. He asks if the chairman can swear he was ever treated without discrimination. He scoffs, questioning if the old man ever even knew what he truly wanted. A dark memory flashes to the past. A younger chairman hangs precariously before falling. In the chaos, young Hong is left with a severely mangled arm. Back in the present, a menacing smile twists Hong's face as he reveals a brutally scarred arm. He declares he is the son who once risked his own life to save him. President Hong's venomous smile widens as he reveals the grotesquely scarred arm. He reminds the old man that he is the son who once risked everything to save him. The chairman flinches, his fury momentarily forgotten. He softly agrees, admitting that he could never forget that day and owes Hong a great debt. Hong feigns devotion, promising to remember that moment for the rest of his life. Seeing his emotional trap working, Hong calls him father, his expression shifting to one of twisted victory as the chairman looks on in utter despair. The chairman's expression turns to ice. He calmly tells President Hong that he gave him a chance. Confused, Hong asks what he means by that. The chairman then drops a bombshell, revealing he knew everything about Hong's affair with Hyunja's wife. Hong freezes, the color draining from his face. A dark memory surfaces, a house sectioned off by police tape. A woman had taken her own life. Through the window, a younger chairman stares in absolute horror at the tragic scene, a devastating secret that has poisoned them both for years. The chairman reveals the final, devastating piece of the puzzle. Jae-hyuk's mother took her own life out of guilt from the affair. A heartbreaking final message on her old phone is the grim proof. Stunned, President Hong asks why he kept this secret for so long. The chairman explains he believed in him, hoping he would reflect on his mistake. For 20 years, he watched Hong work like a man repenting his sins and decided to trust him. But now, clenching his fist in fury, he asks how Hong could betray that trust again. The chairman delivers his final verdict. He declares that he will resolve Jae-hyuk's issues first, and only then will he decide President Hong's punishment. He gives Hong one last chance, warning him not to disappoint him again. Defeated, Hong slumps into his chair and whispers his agreement. The crushing realization hits him. The chairman knew everything for 20 long years and pretended not to. He grips his head in despair, the weight of the decades-old secret finally breaking him as he stares into the abyss of his own making. President Hong suddenly lets out a twisted laugh, finding the whole situation incredibly amusing. A mistake? He scoffs at the word. His mind flashes back not to the tragedy, but to the thrilling start of the affair. He remembers seeing Jae-hyuk's mother in the office. The memory is intoxicating as he recalls pulling her onto the desk, their secret embrace escalating in a moment of forbidden passion. He clearly remembers the thrill of his betrayal, not the pain it caused, revealing just how little remorse he feels. President Hong's memories of the affair are anything but regretful. He revels in the memory of their secret encounter in the office, the desk groaning under their combined weight. He recalls the intoxicating rush of their forbidden embrace, papers scattering across the floor as passion consumed them. Back in the present, a cold, mocking smirk spreads across his face. He scoffs at the chairman's judgment, thinking to himself that the old man doesn't even know the full, twisted truth of what happened all those years ago. President Hong scoffs, finding the chairman's words utterly absurd. He doesn't even know the twisted truth of how that woman really met her end all those years ago. So his world comes crashing down. Huddled in her dark room, she stares at a scandalous news article on her phone. The headline screams that Jae-hyuk is having an affair, painting him as the victim in their divorce. Her mind races. Her father promised he would make this photo disappear. Total panic grips her as she realizes Jae-hyuk must have seen it by now. He's already furious with her. As she spirals, her phone suddenly lights up. It's a message from Ji Haesung, summoning her to meet him at a cafe immediately. So he rushes into the cafe, her mind still reeling. Ji Haesung is already there, waving her over. He explains he took the day off, worried about her after seeing the scandalous article. Her panic spikes as she vehemently denies the story. She confesses she liked Jae-hyuk, but insists the idea of an affair is a complete lie. Haesung calmly tells her he knows she isn't that kind of person. Overwhelmed, so he wonders what to do, terrified of how furious Jae-hyuk must be. Haesung just urges her to calm down first. Haesung drops a bombshell, revealing he thinks he knows who is behind the scandalous article. So his anger instantly flares. She remembers showing him the photo and concludes the other woman must have leaked it to reporters, her hands trembling as she clenches her fists. But Haesung quickly shuts that theory down, insisting she's wrong. Confused, so he demands to know who the real culprit is. With a grim expression, Haesung reveals a shocking name: President Hong Yun-seok. He was the one who orchestrated the entire thing, leaving So-hee stunned into silence. So-hee stumbles back in disbelief, asking Haesung what on earth he's talking about. She vehemently denies his accusation, insisting there's absolutely no way President Hong would do this to her. She claims he's always treated her so kindly and that Haesung must have misunderstood the situation. But Haesung watches her with a pained expression, understanding her desperate denial. He then drops an even bigger bombshell, revealing the real reason for the president's kindness. With a heavy heart, he declares that President Hong is their biological father, leaving So-hee utterly speechless. Haiwan's heart pounds, wondering why he's suddenly bringing this up. Haesung calmly reveals he knew everything. He explains that he was aware President Hong had confided only in her and that she'd been secretly contacting him this whole time. Completely floored, Haiwan can barely process the news. She then erupts, insisting that if he knew everything, he'd also know the president would never betray her. She frantically pleads that it's all a misunderstanding. But Haesung coldly cuts her off, calling out her full name with a grave expression: Ji Haiwan. Haesung's expression hardens as he demands Haiwan's full attention. He drops another mind-blowing truth. President Hong knew they were his children from the moment he first appeared at their orphanage. A flashback reveals it was no coincidence. He had come there specifically to find them. The question hangs in the air: why would their father pretend not to know them? Haesung reveals the simple, heartbreaking reason. Before their mother passed, she gave him a stark warning. He was to never, ever get involved with Hong Yun-seok. So he looks on, completely shattered by the revelation. Haiwan's world shatters. She desperately tries to make sense of Haesung's words, questioning how President Hong could have known they were his children from their first meeting at the orphanage. He had told her a completely different story, claiming he only found out much later. The lie feels like a knife to the gut. Haesung then presents their mother's diary, open to a photo of her with Hong Yun-seok. Next to it is a chilling, handwritten warning: you must be careful of Hong Yun-seok. Slamming her hands on the table, Haiwan refuses to believe it. Haiwan's mind races, desperately clinging to the idea that their father truly cared for her. Refusing to believe the diary, she declares she needs to confirm this herself. Shaking with emotion, she announces she has to leave but promises to contact him later. With that, she turns and quickly exits the cafe. Haesung watches her go, understanding her immense shock. He knew she relied on President Hong, which is why he couldn't tell her carelessly. But now, his difficult task is done. The truth has finally been delivered. After dropping that major truth bomb, Haesung sits with grim determination, deciding it's time to make his next move. The scene then cuts to a hospital, where So-hee is all alone in her room, looking completely overwhelmed. She never imagined Jae-hyuk would find out about the pregnancy. Gripping the sheets in a panic, she has no idea what to do now. As she remembers how he acted yesterday, Jae-hyuk suddenly appears by her bedside. He gently takes her hand, his face filled with concern and what looks like deep regret. So he can't shake the feeling that this Jae-hyuk is different from the man she used to know. Her thoughts are interrupted when a nurse comes in to change her for. The nurse then casually mentions a man standing outside her room and asks if So-hee knows him. Before she can fully process the question, Jae-hyuk himself walks in, his sudden appearance leaving her speechless. The nurse, confused, asks if he's an acquaintance. After a tense moment, So-hee quietly admits that he is her husband, as Jae-hyuk listens with a stoic expression. The nurse praises Jae-hyuk for being a considerate husband, arriving so early with bags full of gifts. But So-hee quietly shuts that idea down. Once the nurse finishes her work and leaves the room, So-hee immediately confronts him, demanding to know why he's there again. Jae-hyuk explains he was just going to have the nurse pass the items along. He places the bags on the table, and So-hee's eyes widen in total shock. Looking inside, she discovers they are overflowing with brand new baby clothes, rattles, and other supplies for their unborn child. So-hee stares at the gifts, unable to believe it's all for the baby. Jae-hyuk explains he figured her clothes were getting tight, but So-hee isn't having it. She demands to know why he's acting this way after she told him to stop caring. Jae-hyuk looks at her with grim determination, admitting he deeply regrets his past actions. He declares that since he can't change the past, he'll spend the future making things right. He confesses that he thought his coldness during their 3-year fake marriage was a strange form of consideration. Jae-hyuk admits his coldness wasn't real consideration at all. He confesses that his detachment is probably why he never even noticed she was pregnant. Taking full responsibility for his failures, he says he just wants to help her and their baby. But So-hee isn't moved. She tells him that no matter what he says, she can't trust him anymore. She pleads for him to leave, but Jae-hyuk flatly refuses. He walks towards her bed, his mind set. He needed to hear everything she had to say. Just as Jae-hyuk insists he needs to hear everything, a thunderous figure appears in the doorway. It's the chairman, and So-hee can only stare in total shock. He storms directly toward Jae-hyuk, demanding to know if what he heard is true, that their marriage was a lie and he divorced So-hee while she was pregnant. Jae-hyuk calmly confirms every word. The admission sends the chairman into a blind rage. He roars Jae-hyuk's name, and a sharp slap cracks across his son's face, echoing through the tense hospital room. So-hee watches in utter horror, calling out Jae-hyuk's name as the chairman's fury boils over. A heavy blow lands, and Jae-hyuk's head whips to the side. He silently absorbs the impact, offering no defense. The chairman roars, questioning how his son could fake a marriage and then abandon his pregnant wife. Jae-hyuk calmly takes the blame, apologizing for not telling him sooner. Ignoring his son, the chairman turns with a heavy heart, expressing his sincere regret for being deceived by the entire charade for so long. The chairman's anger dissolves into heartbreak as he turns to a crying So-hee. She apologizes profusely, but he simply looks pained for her. Just as he moves to comfort her, Jae-hyuk blocks his path. He declares that So-hee is innocent. With a steady voice, Jae-hyuk confesses that keeping the sham marriage a secret was entirely his order. The chairman stares in disbelief, asking if it's true. Jae-hyuk's calm yes is the final spark. A thunderous crack echoes as the chairman's hand connects squarely with his son's face. The chairman's fury shifts to bitter disappointment. He tells Jae-hyuk he raised him all wrong, that he took pity on him as an orphan and spoiled him, only to be repaid with this disgrace. Jae-hyuk quietly apologizes, but the chairman explodes, roaring that he doesn't want to hear it. Overwhelmed by betrayal, he declares his deep disappointment in them both. Finally, his anger breaks. He turns to So-hee, gently calling her his child and insisting that no matter what, she must take care of herself now that she is pregnant. With a final, sad apology, the chairman urges So-hee to rest. He then turns his back, coldly summoning Jae-hyuk to follow him outside. The door clicks shut, leaving a worried So-hee clutching her hospital gown all alone. In a deserted stairwell, the chairman finally confronts his son, demanding to know why he did it. Jae-hyuk looks down, offering a vague explanation that it just happened. He firmly states, once more, that So-hee is innocent. Hearing the weak excuse, the chairman's hand clenches the railing, his knuckles white with barely controlled fury. The chairman demands to know why Jae-hyuk would divorce So-hee if he's so quick to defend her. Jae-hyuk freezes, lost for an answer. The chairman's fists clench as he remembers the past, recalling how he thought his grandson was sincere. A memory floods his mind, the first and only time Jae-hyuk knelt before him to ask for a favor. He had asked for help with someone, a grieving So-hee. Snapping back to the present, the chairman yells that he truly believed Jae-hyuk had feelings for her, but Jae-hyuk remains silent. The chairman's mind drifts to the past, recalling the day he arranged for Jae-hyuk and So-hee to meet. He had such high hopes. Snapping back to the present, he demands to know why it all fell apart. He pulls out his phone, showing Jae-hyuk a scandalous article that claims the divorce is because of an affair with Haiwon. Jae-hyuk immediately panics, insisting it's absolutely not true. The chairman sighs, agreeing that his grandson isn't the type. But then he corners him, asking if the story is fake. Then what's the deal with the article? Jae-hyuk insists the scandalous article is a misunderstanding he'll handle himself. As the chairman offers the company's help, Jae-hyuk sharply tells him to stay out of it. The chairman fires back, warning that any reckless move will only hurt So-hee, especially in her delicate condition. Deciding for both of them, he declares he will handle the article and forbids Jae-hyuk from visiting the hospital. Defeated, Jae-hyuk agrees. The chairman walks away, muttering about his foolish grandson, leaving Jae-hyuk to trudge back to the company alone. As the chairman walks away, his phone buzzes. He answers, asking what his secretary could possibly want now. But the voice on the other end is frantic, shouting that this is serious. Something has happened with President Hong Yun-seok. The chairman's eyes fly open in shock. Elsewhere, President Hong Yun-seok smirks in his office. He congratulates a reporter for their excellent work on the scandalous article. Hanging up the phone, he leans back with a satisfied grin, thinking to himself that his plan took a very long time to come together. President Hong Yun-seok kicks back in his office, a smug look on his face, as he declares his plan is finally complete. A knock sounds at his door. A subordinate enters with a report, confirming that everything will proceed as planned. At the next shareholders' meeting, Vice Chairman Jae-hyuk is set to be dismissed from his position. Elsewhere, a completely defeated Jae-hyuk sits alone on a bleak staircase. He has no clue that his professional life is about to be systematically dismantled by the very man now smirking in his luxurious office. In her bleak hospital room, Sohee's mind is a whirlwind of panic. The chairman's angry voice echoes in her memory, and she realizes with a jolt that he knows everything. She recalls his furious face, accusing her of deception. Just as she spirals, another memory pushes through. In that tense moment, Jae-hyuk had stepped forward, standing between her and his enraged grandfather. He had firmly declared that Sohee had done nothing wrong. The sudden recollection stuns her. Had Jae-hyuk really stood up for her like that? Still shaken, Sohee replayed the memory of Jae-hyuk defending her. It wasn't just a duty. His expressions seemed like genuine concern. Her spiraling thoughts are cut short as her phone buzzes. The name on the screen is Seonwoo. Her breath catches. Jae-hyuk had said Seonwoo was the one who revealed her pregnancy. She answers, immediately cutting off his frantic questions about a news article. Before anything else, she needs to know the truth. So he takes a deep breath and asks if he really told Jae-hyuk her secret. On the other end of the line, Seonwoo drops an absolute bombshell. Jae-hyuk already knew. He explains that on the night they had dinner, Jae-hyuk was at the very same restaurant and accidentally overheard their conversation about the baby. Later, Jae-hyuk confronted him directly, demanding to know if what he'd heard was true. Backed into a corner, Seonwoo had no choice but to confirm it. He apologizes for telling him, but Sohee just clenches her fist, the shocking revelation hitting her like a tidal wave. Jae-hyuk knew all along. The full picture finally clicks into place for Sohee. Sitting on her hospital bed, she calmly thanks Seonwoo for telling her the truth, cutting off his apologies. But then Seonwoo adds something that completely blindsides her. He believes Jae-hyuk is genuinely worried about her. Stunned, she asks what he means. Seonwoo explains that Jae-hyuk's reaction was nothing like he expected, recalling his pained and shaken expression when he learned about the baby. Before Sohee can process this new revelation, Seonwoo steers the conversation back to the urgent news article, the real reason for his call. Confused, Sohee questions what article he means. Seonwoo drops another bombshell. A story just broke accusing Jae-hyuk of having an affair, throwing Hongsung Electronics into chaos. Her mind races with Seonwoo's words about Jae-hyuk being worried. She immediately pulls up the news on her phone. The screen displays a photo of Jae-hyuk and Haewon under a scandalous headline. She recognizes it instantly, remembering the suspicion she once felt. But thinking back on Haewon's desperation and Jae-hyuk's recent actions, Sohee comes to a firm conclusion. This rumor can't be true. Back in her hospital room, Sohee notices shopping bags left for her. She recalls Jae-hyuk's words, how he wanted to help her and the baby. Peeking inside, she finds them filled with baby supplies, from tiny booties to soft rattles. Utterly confused, she wonders what he could possibly be thinking. His recent, sincere gaze reminds her of a tender night they once shared. A memory flashes of him holding her close, his eyes warm and regretful, leaving her completely baffled by his contradictory actions and feelings. What does he truly want? A tender memory flashes through Sohee's mind, a night when Jae-hyuk held her close, a gentle warmth between them that now feels like a distant dream. Snapping back to reality, she clutches her stomach in the cold hospital room, whispering to her unborn baby that she doesn't know what to do. A knock on the door breaks her spiraling thoughts. A nurse enters and casually asks if she should prepare a meal for Sohee's husband. Confused, Sohee looks up. The nurse clarifies that Jae-hyuk is still here. He's been sitting right outside her room the entire time. Jae-hyuk sits stone-faced in the empty hospital hallway. The clock ticks away the lonely hours of the night, but he remains perfectly still, lost in his thoughts. Morning light streams through the window, and he's still there. Tentatively, Sohee steps out of her room and stops dead, her eyes wide with shock. He really stayed all night. As their gazes lock, Jae-hyuk slowly rises to his feet. With heavy, deliberate steps, he walks towards her, leaving Sohee frozen in place as he closes the distance between them. Sohee spins around, a confused huh, escaping her lips. But he's already gone. She peeks down the empty hospital hallway, wondering if that was really Jae-hyuk. Later, needing fresh air, she wanders into the hospital garden. As she strolls along the path, she senses she's not alone. She glances over her shoulder and spots him, Jae-hyuk, keeping his distance. He's following her, but why is he hiding? If he has something to say, why won't he just approach her? This strange game of cat and mouse leaves her completely bewildered. Jae-hyuk nervously watches Sohee from a distance, but his moment is shattered when a deep voice calls out to her. Sohee spins around, her eyes widening in pure shock. It's the chairman. He calmly explains that since she wasn't in her room, he had been searching for her. Sohee's blood runs cold as she wonders if he's here because of what happened yesterday. With a grave expression, the chairman confirms her fears, stating that they need to have a talk for a moment. This conversation definitely won't be a pleasant one. The chairman asks for a moment to talk, and though her heart pounds in her chest, So-hee quietly agrees. He leads her to a secluded bench in the garden, the air thick with tension. Cutting through the silence, So-hee asks what he wishes to discuss. He starts by simply saying her name, making her flinch. But then he does something completely unexpected. The chairman admits he got too angry yesterday, confessing that he shouldn't have lost his temper like that, especially in front of a pregnant woman. This sudden apology leaves So-hee completely stunned. The chairman looks at So-hee with a surprisingly gentle gaze and offers a sincere apology. So-hee, completely caught off guard, stammers that it's fine and tries to take some of the blame herself. But the chairman immediately shuts that down, declaring that the only person at fault is that rascal, Jae-hyuk. He gestures toward a pillar where Jae-hyuk is hiding, grumbling that he told his son to stay away. Despite her shock, So-hee's expression softens with worry. She tentatively asks the chairman if Jae-hyuk is alright, mentioning a serious news article she saw. The chairman tells So-hee to stop worrying, assuring her that he's handling everything. All she needs to do is focus on her health. From a distance, Jae-hyuk can only watch. The chairman then gets brutally honest, calling Jae-hyuk a bad person and acknowledging the terrible way his grandson treated her. This leads to his ultimate question: why is she still concerned about him? So-hee is stunned, forced to ask herself the same thing. A flashback of Jae-hyuk's icy stare floods her mind, reminding her that every memory of him is painful. The chairman shifts, admitting he suddenly had a lot on his mind. Before So-hee can fully process his words, he pulls out a bank card and offers it to her. Completely shocked, So-hee tries to refuse, but he insists, saying he can't take back something he's already decided to give. So-hee firmly rejects the offer. The chairman then confesses his shame, admitting he never knew his grandson made her suffer for 3 years. He gently places the card in her hands, telling her she has a baby to care for and should use the money for hospital fees. The chairman firmly declares the matter settled. So-hee finally relents, clutching the card as she agrees. Sensing her turmoil, the chairman puts a comforting arm around her, promising to respect whatever choice she makes for her future. Overwhelmed by this unexpected support, tears well up in So-hee's eyes as she thanks him with genuine gratitude. Meanwhile, back at the corporate office, Se-inwo walks through the halls. He stops as he overhears 2 colleagues buzzing about a new article. Gossip about the vice chairman's alleged affair is spreading like wildfire. The 2 colleagues confirm it. The rumors are true, which is why an emergency shareholders meeting is being called. Se-inwo, having heard enough, storms off to confront Jae-hyuk directly. He reveals that he overheard Jae-hyuk's conversation at the restaurant and demands to know if the secret is real. Jae-hyuk scoffs, calling him unpleasant for eavesdropping. He questions what business it is of Se-inwo's, especially since he already divorced So-hee. Before Se-inwo can react, Jae-hyuk switches tactics, stating he came to ask for a favor, leaving the other man stunned. Jae-hyuk reveals his favor with a heavy heart, confessing to Se-inwo that for the past 3 years, he completely failed to be a real husband to So-hee. Accepting that he's lost his chance forever, Jae-hyuk clutches his chest and recalls seeing So-hee happy with him. With a pained expression, he makes a stunning request. He begs Se-inwo to make So-hee happy in his place. But Se-inwo hits him with an even bigger shocker, revealing that Jae-hyuk is mistaken, because So-hee already rejected his proposal. This new information leaves Jae-hyuk completely speechless. Jae-hyuk is floored, unable to believe So-hee rejected Se-inwo's proposal. Se-inwo calmly confirms it, then drops the ultimate bombshell. So-hee refused because she's carrying Jae-hyuk's child. The world-shattering news renders Jae-hyuk completely speechless. Having delivered the truth, Se-inwo quietly leaves the office. Leaning against the wall outside, he questions his actions. He recalls the deep suffering he witnessed in both of them and knows he couldn't keep lying. He just wanted to help So-hee find a path forward, even if it meant revealing everything. As Se-inwo walks away, he wonders if So-hee ever really needed his help. Meanwhile, Jae-hyuk is a man on a mission. The news about the baby sends him sprinting out of his office and straight to the hospital. He finally finds So-hee in a hallway and grabs her wrist, stopping her dead in her tracks. She whirls around, completely shocked by his sudden appearance. Looking desperate and breathless, Jae-hyuk pleads with her to wait, insisting that they absolutely must talk right at that moment. His intense gaze shows he won't take no for an answer. Just a moment ago, So-hee was in her hospital room when a call came in from the chairman. He relayed a message from Se-inwo, telling her that Jae-hyuk was deeply worried. The news left So-hee completely stunned. She had believed their relationship was finished, so his sudden concern felt confusing and out of place. Why was he doing this now? She couldn't begin to understand his intentions. Unbeknownst to her, Jae-hyuk was sitting right outside her door, waiting in the hallway with a heavy heart, adding to her emotional turmoil. So he remembers the chairman's kind words. He knew she had a lot on her mind and promised to respect whatever choice she made. His support gives her strength. Confused by Jae-hyuk's sudden change of heart, she knows she has to ask him why. Stepping out of her room, she's determined to get answers. She immediately spots Jae-hyuk in the hallway, who has been waiting for her. Just as he walks away, he calls out his name, causing him to freeze in his tracks. The tense confrontation is about to begin. With his grip still firm, Jae-hyuk insists they need to talk. Sohee's gaze is unwavering as she leads him back into her sterile hospital room. The air hangs thick with unspoken words. In a surprising move, she tells him to wait and gestures for him to sit in a nearby chair. Once he's seated, she sits on the edge of her bed, her posture rigid. Locking eyes with him, Sohee calmly declares that she has something she wants to ask. The ball is officially in her court now. Sohee cuts right through the tension, revealing she saw the scandalous article about him and Haiwan. Jae-hyuk flinches, clearly caught off guard. She quickly clarifies that she knows it's not true, and that's not why she's talking to him. Her real question is much sharper. With his company in total chaos over the news, why is he here? Unable to meet her gaze, Jae-hyuk quietly confesses it was because he was worried. The answer hangs in the air, stunning Sohee. She scoffs, her voice filled with disbelief as she asks if he was truly worried about her. Sohee's disbelief hardens into a cold accusation. She asks Jae-hyuk if he even remembers the last 3 years, calling their marriage a complete charade. Memories flash of them playing the perfect couple for the public and the chairman, a carefully crafted lie sold with every camera flash. She bitterly asks if he ever knew how she felt, putting on a brave face while her hands were clenched to her lap. Answering her own question, she declares he could never have known because he never truly cared about her at all. So he viciously calls out their entire public act. A flashback reveals them posing as the perfect couple for a photo shoot. But the instant the cameras stopped flashing, Jae-hyuk snatched his hand away, immediately turning his back on her to talk business. She tells him his focus was always on his company, never on her. Their marriage, she claims, was just another business asset. Whipping out her phone, she shoves the screen in his face. It's filled with scandalous articles tanking his reputation. If the company was all he ever valued, she demands, then why is this happening? So he lays it all out, telling Jae-hyuk his own company is in trouble because of him. How can she possibly believe he's worried about her? Visibly shaken, Jae-hyuk clenches his fists. He quietly admits that even if she doesn't believe him, she matters more to him than his company right now. Her eyes widen as she asks if he's really here because she matters. He simply answers yes. That's the final straw. So he explodes, slamming her hand down. She screams at him not to be ridiculous after making her miserable for 3 years. So he scoffs, asking if his sudden concern is just an act for his own satisfaction. She tells him that if he genuinely cared, he wouldn't be there burdening her. Coldly, she orders him to leave and go to his company, stating that's where he should be. Visibly hurt, Jae-hyuk quietly agrees and turns to walk away. His heavy footsteps echo in the room, but he stops at the door. He silently wonders, if he could fix everything, would she be willing to talk to him just one more time? So he flinches, sensing his hesitation. As Jae-hyuk turns to go, so he thinks to herself. Honestly, she can't believe anything he said. A man that indifferent couldn't possibly change so easily. But just as his hand closes around the door handle, she calls out. She tells him that if he's truly thinking about her, she's willing to hear his side of the story, just once. Stunned, Jae-hyuk looks back at her. So he simply says that's all, and that she'll see him next time. His hand tightens on the handle before dropping to his side. As Jae-hyuk leaves, he walks straight into another fire. At the Hongsung Electronics shareholders meeting, the atmosphere is heavy. The chairman stands at the podium, his face like stone. He declares that due to recent events causing major damage to the company's reputation, a decision has been made. A smug-looking executive smirks from the side as the verdict is delivered. Jae-hyuk is officially dismissed from his position as vice chairman. In a single moment, he loses the company he fought so hard for, his entire world crashing down around him. The moment the door clicks shut, Jae-hyuk is back in business mode. Already on the phone, he confirms with his assistant that all the crucial documents he requested are waiting for him at his residence. With the charts for the general meeting already in his inbox, he has his ammunition. Her harsh words still ring in his ears, that he was a burden, that he should just leave. But instead of despair, her rejection fuels his resolve. He gets to his place, grabs the files, and a look of cold determination crosses his face. The fight isn't over yet. Jae-hyuk throws himself into his counterattack, a man possessed. The days and nights blur into a montage of frantic typing and rustling papers. He works relentlessly, pushing past every physical limit until his body finally gives out, and he collapses onto the couch. He's jolted awake by a soft, familiar touch on his face. His eyes slowly flutter open, and he's shocked to see Sohee standing over him. She gently tells him to wake up, her voice laced with concern as she notes he's been seriously overworking himself lately. Jae-hyuk's eyes fly open. He sits bolt upright, his mind still reeling from exhaustion. He frantically scans the silent, empty apartment.
She's not there.
The gentle touch, her worried voice, it was all just a dream. The cruel realization hits him, a phantom of his overworked mind. He grips the couch cushion, his knuckles turning white as the brief comfort evaporates. A cold, simmering rage takes its place. This fight is far from over, and he's just getting started. He's been pushed, and now he's ready to push back. 1 week before the pivotal shareholders meeting, the chairman is absolutely livid. Ji Haesung stands before him, head bowed in a deep, apologetic bow. But the chairman isn't listening to excuses. He stares at the documents in his hand, disbelief turning to cold fury. Their rival, Yunseok, had thoroughly dismantled their plans, weeding out every single spy the chairman had planted. He admits they both severely underestimated him. Yunseok has secured the board, forcing this very meeting. Scrambling for any remaining leverage, the chairman asks if the press is still cooperating with them. Ji Haesung confirms their worst fears. President Hong has already made his move. Defeated, the chairman rubs his temples, admitting this kind of ruthless play has always been Yunseok's specialty. As he wonders how it all went so wrong, the door bursts open. Jae-hyuk strides in, cool and collected. The chairman explodes with rage, demanding to know why Jae-hyuk isn't at home reflecting on his failures. But Jae-hyuk stands his ground, firmly cutting his grandfather off. He declares that this is something he has to handle now. Jae-hyuk's voice is firm, cutting through the tension. He claims this is a problem only he can solve. The chairman is stunned, remembering how Jae-hyuk was a total wreck just a while ago. He puts 2 and 2 together, asking if the sudden spine has anything to do with Sohee. Jae-hyuk confirms it does. He made a promise to her that he would set everything right. Taking a seat, the chairman gets serious, reminding him about the upcoming shareholders meeting and the motion to have him kicked out. Jae-hyuk knows the situation is bad. The chairman demands to know if Jae-hyuk has a clear plan. But instead of an answer, Jae-hyuk makes a shocking request. He wants to be officially removed at the shareholders meeting. The chairman is floored, asking if his grandson understands what that even means. Jae-hyuk confirms he does. It means he's withdrawing from the succession competition completely. As the old man fumes, Jae-hyuk calmly insists this is the necessary first step. This is the only way his true plan can begin, leaving his grandfather wondering what on earth he could be plotting. In President Hong Yunseok's office, an aide reports that the matter concerning Secretary Baek is now settled. Pleased, Yunseok dismisses him. A sly grin spreads across his face as the man exits. He muses that his opponents never realized their spies had been discovered. He simply played dumb, waiting for the perfect moment. With everything set for the shareholders' meeting, his victory seems certain. Just then, the office doors fly open. The chairman barges in, shoving people aside and furiously demanding to confront Yunseok face to face. President Yunseok looks up with a slimy grin. He spots Haiwan and has the nerve to call her his daughter. Haiwan explodes with fury. Daughter? She can't believe what she's hearing. She storms over, grabbing him by the suit jacket. Playing dumb, Yunseok asks what she's talking about. But Haiwan isn't having it. She screams, demanding to know if he was behind that article. With a look of pure rage, she questions if it was really him all along, but the man remains utterly unshaken. President Yunseok tries to play innocent, claiming there's been a misunderstanding. But Haiwan is furious, screaming that she heard everything and knows he was behind the article. He calmly denies it, forcing her to demand who is responsible. Suddenly, his demeanor shifts. He gently takes her hand, telling her to calm down and insisting he tried to stop it from being published. With a smug look, he wonders aloud why he would ever do something so terrible to his own daughter, leaving her completely speechless and confused by his expert manipulation. Haiwan reluctantly accepts his story, her voice filled with exhaustion. Frustrated, she demands to know how he plans to fix this, reminding him she put her trust in him. A sinister smile crosses Yunseok's face. He reveals that this disaster might actually be a golden opportunity. He explains that because of the article, Jae-hyuk is set to be dismissed from his vice-chairman position at the shareholders' meeting. With his support gone, Jae-hyuk will be left completely isolated and vulnerable, falling right into their trap. President Yunseok lays out his sinister plan. He declares that Jae-hyuk is about to lose everything. And that's exactly when Haiwan will make her move. She is to approach him when he's broken and wandering, offering comfort. Yunseok is convinced this is the key to finally winning Jae-hyuk's attention. He offers his hand, asking for her trust just one last time. Haiwan turns away, her voice laced with ice. She agrees, but warns that this is his final chance. If he fails, she won't trust him anymore. He just grins, totally confident. President Yensiek tells Haiwan he'll contact her soon and leaves the room. The moment he's alone, a dark, calculating smile appears on his face. Wasting no time, he makes a call, telling the person on the other end he has a favor to ask. The scene then cuts to the big shareholders meeting. The chairman takes the podium and makes a stunning announcement. He formally declares that Vice Chairman Hong Jae-hyuk is dismissed from his position. Jae-hyuk looks completely shattered by the news, his world falling apart right before his eyes. The chairman officially concludes the shareholders meeting. A smug smile plays on President Yensiek's face, his plan a complete success. Jae-hyuk walks alone through a quiet hallway, his defeat weighing him down. Suddenly, his phone lights up with breaking news. Every outlet is reporting his dismissal. He glances at the headlines confirming his public humiliation before shutting the screen off. Finding a dark, empty room, he steps inside and closes the door, embracing the isolating silence. His world has just been torn apart. In his dark office, Jae-hyuk gazes at an old family photo, his mind consumed by a single, powerful thought. He still regrets it. The memory pulls him back to a fateful day. A younger Jae-hyuk watches his mother, confused about where she is going. He wonders how different life would be if he hadn't gotten into that car. Thinking it would be a fun surprise, he quietly sneaks into the back seat. As his mother gets in, a dark bruise mars her face. The innocent boy peeks out with a smile, completely unaware of the tragedy ahead. In the back seat, the young boy watched as his mother drove, speaking quietly on the phone. She told Mr. Yensiek she was leaving and confirmed that another man knew nothing of her plans. The call ended with a soft, "I love you." Their car journeyed through the rain, finally arriving at a secluded building deep in the mountains. A nervous Jae-hyuk got out, wondering where she was going. He crept toward the strange villa and carefully peeked through a window, his heart pounding with a terrible sense of unease. Through the window, young Jae-hyuk's confusion turned to horror. He saw his mother in the arms of another man, a man he recognized with a sickening jolt. It was his uncle, Hong Yensiek. The boy watched, paralyzed, as their embrace grew more intimate. Overwhelmed by the betrayal, he stumbled back from the window and collapsed, his world completely shattered. In the present, Jae-hyuk's hands trembled violently. When an unseen person asked what was wrong, he could only force out the name that haunted him, the source of his lifelong pain. Mr. Yensiek. Young Jae-hyuk flinched back, his hand gripping the cold brick. A strange, thudding sound from inside made him hold his breath. Peeking through the rain-streaked glass, his world shattered completely. He watched in absolute horror as his mother and Hong Yensiek were tangled together in a shocking embrace right on top of a desk. Though his entire body trembled with betrayal, a cold resolve took hold. He slowly raised the camera he was holding and, with a blinding flash, captured the single moment that would destroy everything he knew. The horrifying memory of his mother's tragic end floods Jae-hyuk's mind. He remembers the awful scene vividly, a trauma that left him frozen in fear as a child. Back then, he was too terrified to do anything. In the present, rain beats against his office window as he stares at the old camera on his desk, the one that captured the truth. With a cold resolve, he picks it up, his expression hardening. He was helpless then, but not anymore. Now, he declares, it's finally time to reveal everything to the world. In a tense conference room, the chairman makes a formal announcement to the board. He starts by addressing the work handled by the now-dismissed vice chairman, Jae-hyuk. The chairman declares that all of Jae-hyuk's former duties will be temporarily handled by another director. He then adds that the vice chairman position will remain vacant until a suitable new candidate is chosen. As he warns everyone against any further incidents during this time of turmoil, Ji Haesung watches from the side, a smug and triumphant smirk plastered across his face. His sabotage was a complete success. As the board meeting concludes, a group of executives immediately swarms President Hong Yensiek. They eagerly congratulate him, declaring that the chairman's seat is now practically his for the taking. The corporate snakes waste no time kicking Jae-hyuk while he's down, trash-talking his qualifications. But Yensiek quickly cuts them off, putting on a solemn face. He thanks them but reminds everyone that Jae-hyuk is his own nephew, so he can't possibly feel good about the situation. The bootlickers immediately apologize, completely falling for his two-faced act as he calmly tells them it's all right. President Hong Yensiek plays the part of the humble leader, telling his new followers to hold back their praise for now. Given the company's fragile state after Jae-hyuk's dismissal, he says this is the time to work even harder. The executives eat it up, pledging their full support to the man they see as their future leader. As Yensiek walks away, his ambition barely concealed, he fails to notice the chairman watching him from down the hall. The old man's expression is grim as he sees the power-hungry snake making his move. In his private office, the chairman grills Jae-hyuk, demanding to know what his plan is. He lays down an ultimatum, warning that a bad answer will just look like him running from responsibility. The pressure is immense. Jae-hyuk stands silently, his hand slowly clenching into a tight fist. Then, looking directly at the old man, he addresses him not as chairman, but as grandfather. With a fire lit in his eyes, Jae-hyuk makes a solemn vow that he is done running away. He's ready to face whatever comes next. The chairman leans back, unimpressed by Jae-hyuk's sudden resolve, and orders him to speak. But instead of laying out a plan, Jae-hyuk flips the script, stating he has a question first. He locks eyes with the old man and asks a question that cuts deep. Does his grandfather know the real reason his father passed away? The chairman is visibly shaken, demanding to know why he's digging up the past. With a heavy sigh, he begins to explain that after Jae-hyuk's mother's devastating end, his father suffered greatly. The chairman recalls his son's crippling grief, concluding that it was what drove him to take his own life. But Jae-hyuk cuts him off, calmly stating that what the chairman believes is not the whole truth. Confused, the old man demands to know what he means. Jae-hyuk then drops a devastating bombshell. His father only ended his life after discovering that President Hong Yun-seok had murdered his mother. The chairman shoots to his feet in a rage, yelling that he must be mistaken. But Jae-hyuk stands firm, confirming the horrifying accusation. Jae-hyuk coldly tells the chairman that he is the one who is mistaken. The truth is far more sinister. He reveals his mother didn't take her own life. She was murdered by President Hong Yun-seok. The weight of this accusation sends the chairman collapsing back onto the sofa. He weakly dismisses it as a dangerous misunderstanding, but Jae-hyuk cuts him off. He declares he has evidence. A flashback shows a terrified young Jae-hyuk, camera in hand, witnessing the horrific event himself. He saw everything that day. Jae-hyuk doesn't just have his memory as evidence, he has photos. The chairman is stunned into silence. Jae-hyuk explains that back then, he was so terrified that he hid the camera in his room and never looked at it again. For years, the truth lay dormant. But then, by chance, he rediscovered the camera. The chairman's eyes widen in disbelief, realizing where it must have been. Jae-hyuk confirms his suspicion with a grim look. He found the camera and the proof it held, hidden away in his own father's study. Jae-hyuk explains the final, devastating piece of the story. His father learned the truth of that day, and the shock is what drove him to take his own life. Crushed, the chairman mutters that it can't be possible. Jae-hyuk admits that for years he avoided everything out of fear. But now, he declares his new plan, to reveal the truth and make President Hong Yun-seok pay for his crimes. Still in disbelief, the chairman makes a demand. He tells Jae-hyuk to bring him the evidence, promising that if it's true, he will help. Jae-hyuk agrees to the terms, promising to bring the evidence. He makes it clear that he expects the chairman to keep his word and help him. Once Jae-hyuk is gone, the old man is left reeling. He desperately tries to convince himself that he must have gotten something wrong. His eyes fall upon a framed photo of a smiling President Yun-seok with his two sons. Overwhelmed, the chairman collapses into his chair, head in his hands. He can't accept it, muttering that his own child would never be capable of such a monstrous act. At the hospital, a receptionist confirms that Cha So-hee's discharge procedures are complete. As she walks through the lobby, a breaking news report flashes across a nearby television, stopping her in her tracks. The anchor announces that Hongsum Group has dismissed Vice Chairman Hong Jae-hyuk following a recent scandal. Stunned, So-hee watches footage of him being swarmed by reporters, cameras flashing everywhere. The word dismissed echoes in her mind. Despite their painful separation, her heart fills with concern as she silently wonders if he is okay. At his desk, Jae-hyuk ignores the news report on his phone detailing the affair scandal. His attention is locked on an old camera sitting nearby. With a grim look, his mind is thrown back to a terrible memory. The scene flashes to a dark, rainy forest where a young man sprints frantically through the trees. He clutches that very same camera, his face twisted in pure terror. He's running for his life, gasping for air as he desperately tries to escape a horrific sight from the dark woods. The flashback throws Jae-hyuk back to that rainy night. The young man, trembling, realized he had to run. He had just witnessed a horrific act through a window, and he knew that if he were caught, he would face the same terrible fate. He bolts into the stormy night, his mind racing with nowhere to go. He bursts out of the woods and onto a dark road, where the screech of tires fills the air. A car stops just inches from him. The angry driver jumps out, yelling at the terrified kid for running into traffic. The driver, who nearly hit the young man, turns out to be a taxi driver. Panicked, the kid yanks open the back door and throws himself inside. He desperately begs the man to take him to Songsu-dong, pleading for him to hurry. The driver is baffled by the terrified state of his new passenger, who promises to pay once they arrive. Sensing the kid is in real trouble, The driver reluctantly agrees. He buckles up and confirms the destination while the young man grips his camera, shaking in the back seat. The taxi pulls up to a large traditional house in the pouring rain. The young man rushes to the door, where an older gentleman asks who he is. Before he can answer, he spots someone familiar inside and freezes in terror. It's Jae-hyuk. Panicked, the kid shoves past both men and bolts through the house, desperate to escape. The taxi driver, still waiting, asks Jae-hyuk to settle the fare. The older man then asks Jae-hyuk if he is the child's father, and Jae-hyuk quietly confirms that he is. The older man assures the taxi driver he'll be paid. He then learns a critical detail. The driver found the boy on a remote mountain road. Later, Jae-hyuk's father finds the young boy huddled in a room, shaking and completely unresponsive. The father gently tries to ask what happened, but the boy is too traumatized to speak. Suddenly, a horrifying realization hits the older man. He shouts for someone named Hyungju, screaming that something terrible has happened. Jae-hyuk watches silently as his father's face fills with pure panic, grasping the gravity of the situation. Jae-hyesung demands to know what's wrong as the chairman collapses in grief. The older man can only utter one name, Jae-hyuk's mother. Overhearing this, Jae-hyuk is paralyzed by a horrifying memory. His mind races back to the day his mother passed away. It wasn't sadness that consumed him, but an overwhelming fear that forced him to lock himself in his room. The household was in chaos, and just as he was drowning in terror, tragedy struck again. 2 months later, his father was gone, too, leaving him completely alone. His past trauma floods back in a painful wave. A younger Jae-hyuk walks alone, his heart heavy with a terrible question for his late father. Did he leave to follow his mother? The thought of being left behind was crushing. After losing his dad, so soon after his mom, a profound loneliness consumed him. Tears fell as he stood on the empty street, overcome with the gut-wrenching feeling of being utterly abandoned in the world. He was just a boy, forced to face everything all by himself. The memory hits him hard. He was just a boy wandering the streets, crushed by loneliness as tears streamed down his face. Suddenly, a small voice called out. A little girl in a bright red dress stood before him, innocently asking why he was crying. Wiping his eyes, Jae-hyuk looked up, surprised by her sudden appearance. When she asked again, he finally admitted the painful truth. He told her he was crying simply because he was lonely, and the feeling of being all by himself in the world was too much to bear. The little girl seemed surprised he was crying over being lonely. She suddenly declared that she was alone, too. Jae-hyuk was stunned by her words. Seeing his shock, she grinned and said that made them the same, then grabbed his hand. She told him to stop his tears and follow her, promising to show him a treasure she kept safe. After he hesitantly told her his name was Jae-hyuk, her face lit up with a brilliant smile. This little girl, his first light in the darkness, was none other than Cha So-hee.